to the east. Still plenty of great skiing in the mountains of Utah. Welcome to Salt Lake City. Final tune-up, spring training 2013 for the Colorado Rockies and the Seattle Mariners. It is a gorgeous, gorgeous afternoon. Temperature should get close to 70 degrees at Spring Mobile Ballpark, the AAA home of the Salt Lake City Bees, the AAA affiliate of the Los Angeles Angels. Welcome, everybody. I'm Drew Goodman. After this, the Rockies will embark on their 162-game schedule. It'll begin in Milwaukee, and for the Mariners, their season will begin in Oakland. But first things first, the final tune-up of the year, and fans are really excited about the opportunity to see Major League Baseball in this city for the first time since 1970. There's a sellout crowd awaiting. The last time a Major League game was played here, a fellow by the name of Reggie Jackson was involved. Let's get a little preview on what the Mariners have been up to throughout the spring. It has been a most successful March for them. Here's Mike Blowers down on the field.
Thanks, Drew. For the Mariners, spring training couldn't have gone any better, and a big reason why is the additions that they made over the course of the winter. You have Raul Ibanez, Kendrys Morales, and Michael Morris, big additions to this club that are going to hit in the middle of the lineup. We were all wondering what that would look like over the course of spring training. Well, the Mariners have set a record with 56 home runs so far this spring. They're hoping that those additions offensively will be a difference in their club and the record that they're trying to improve on. We know that they can pitch, and they've shown they can play defense, but with these offensive additions to their club, things should look a lot better for the Mariners here in 2013. And now for a few comments about the Rockies, we'll send it over to George Frazier on the other side of the diamond.
Thanks a lot, Mike. Well, let's talk about one player for me that really stood out in spring training. That's Dexter Fowler. Yeah, we hear all about Tulowitzki, Gonzalez, what they've done, Kadire, what they're doing, but Dexter Fowler by far had the best spring of anybody I've seen in quite some time in a Rockies uniform. 415 average, 4 home runs, he hit triples, he hit doubles, slugging percentage 830. Rewarded with a long-term contract in the offseason, you often wonder, how's he going to show up in spring training? We all know Dexter had struggled in the past coming to spring training. But the way he played defense, the way he covered into the outfield, stealing bases, everything else, don't be surprised if he's not an all-star come July. Now I'm going to send it back upstairs to Drew Goodman.
All right, George, thanks very much. On the hill today, Jeff Francis for the Rockies. He'll start the home opener, and Brandon Maurer, who's had a terrific spring for Seattle, will take the baseball. We're ready to go. We hope you are as well. The Rockies and the Mariners, come on back to Salt Lake City with us.
Only my
Sports is brought to you by your neighborhood Toyota stores. Toyota, let's go places. By Taco Bell, sometimes you gotta live Moss. By the Emerald Queen Casino, get ready to rock out with Kansas May 11th. For tickets, go to emeraldqueen.com. And by the Ski-Doo Summit, the most specialized mountain sled ever. An absolutely stunning day in Salt Lake City. Today, let's get you to Drew Goodman, George Frazier, and Mike Blowers just to the south of the capital at Spring Mobile Park for the spring training finale between the Rockies and the Mariners.
So we are set for baseball on a perfect spring afternoon at Spring Mobile Ballpark in Salt Lake City. The Rockies will be the home team in this affair. And Jeff Francis going to the mound. T-shirts everywhere. That's appropriate that gentleman's wearing an Angels T-shirt, since the Angels AAA affiliate are here. They got to see Mike Trout the last year or so. Not a bad guy to see, Mike.
No, it's not. And you walk around here and look at the walls, and some of the guys, in fact, one of the guys in the lineup for the Mariners used to play here too, and Kendrys Morales was a star here at one point.
So I'll ask both of you, did you ever play in Salt Lake City?
I never did. It happened to be that time when I was in the PCL. They were actually, I think it was the Pioneer League at the time, and then the following year when I was in the big leagues and when they came back to the PCL. So I never played here.
Yeah, Eric Wedge, a former Colorado Rocky. 9th season as a big league manager, long time with the Cleveland Indians. Let's take a look at his Southwest batting order this afternoon. And this will somewhat replicate, I imagine, what you'll see opening day from Seattle, with a couple of perhaps changes. Franklin Gutierrez, now a veteran, he'll be in center field. Michael Saunders, a lot of ability. He'll bat second. Kendrys Morales, Michael Morse, who's had a huge spring. Kyle Seager. Justin Smokes had an enormous spring, hitting .418. Jesus Montero, .395 average. If you're looking at all these gaudy averages, Dustin Ackley, Brendan Ryan, Seattle, Mike, a team that's been challenged at times offensively, has had an extraordinary spring.
It's been good news, and they've gained a lot of confidence because of the spring they've had offensively.
Well, 3-1 in the spring. Jeff threw the ball extremely well. An earned run average of 270. Velocity even peaked back up again. Popped a couple of times in the 90-91 range. It's just kind of the old Jeff Francis. 2.5 years out of shoulder surgery, 23 1/3 innings in the spring. Not many walks, too. Knows what he's doing on the mound.
We mentioned it earlier. Jeff will start the home opener for the Rockies. And so he'll have an extra day off, if you will, before the Rockies open at Coors Field on Friday. And the first pitch in there, strike one on Franklin Gutierrez.
Well, it's the right choice for me for opening up in Coors Field. A guy that understands the ballpark. He's not as scared to throw in the ballpark. He's had very good numbers at Coors Field.
One ball, one strike. This ballpark, like most parks in the PCL, is an offensive-oriented park. And that ball's in the air down the left field line. Cargo near the line, now in foul ground. Wary of the wall, unable to come up with the catch.
Well, weird too. I mean, it's an exhibition game. It's the last one in the season starting on Monday. I'm not going to climb the wall to crash into it to try to make a catch. I know a lot of times you say, well, still got to be able to make that play. But, you know, where you're in a very unfamiliar ballpark.
Well, it's interesting. It's 345 down the line. It's 385, or excuse me, 385 to left center field, power alley, 375 right center, 420 straight away. I was talking to some folks here affiliated with the Salt Lake City Bees, and last year in the PCL they were 9th in home run factor, and that shocked me. But then you start thinking about it. You got Colorado Springs, you have Reno, you have Albuquerque. There's so many great offensive parks.
Another ballpark does the same thing. Las Vegas does the same thing too. Very high altitude.
We were in Vegas. Remember that, George and Mike, a couple of years ago, and the wind was howling out about 60 miles an hour to right?
Miserable.
Thought the final was going to be 45-42.
Yeah, not a day to build your spring ERA.
Nicely cut off by Reed Brignac getting the start at third. So Gutierrez is retired. Let's take a look at the Rockies gloves, brought to you by the Ford Super Duty. It's built Ford tough. Carlos Gonzalez is in left field. Dexter Fowler is in center, and Michael Kadire is in right. Brignac starting for Chris Nelson, who's got on to Milwaukee. Chris is battling a little bit of a flu. Tulowitzki, Rutledge, Helton, and Willeen Rosario, the baby bull, behind the plate. Here's big Michael Saunders stepping in. 6'4" and about 225 pounds. He had 19 home runs last year for Seattle. 3-round trippers this spring. This is a kid that's going to keep getting better and better, isn't he?
You would think so. You mentioned the 19 home runs. He also led the club with stolen bases, had 21 stolen bases last year, and ended up playing a lot more center field than I think people expected because Gutierrez had some injury issues, and so Michael had to fill in center. But he's a tremendous athlete and took a big step forward last year, as you see, 247 with the 19 home runs.
1-2 on Saunders. Seattle's 21-11 for what that's worth in spring training, and the Rockies are 16-14. Where do you guys stand in terms of records, George, in spring training? Because early on, obviously, starters play 4 or 5 innings, then they come out.
I think it depends on the type of club you have and what you did the previous couple of years. If you've lost 98 games, you haven't performed well. Both of these teams last year had years they would like to forget about. I think it's important to come win if you're in that situation.
Left center field, Carlos Gonzalez with out number 2.
I think that's important for them to try to get that lineup together as much as they can the last week or so, or 10 days of spring training, and let them do some damage. And they've done that. Both clubs have done that. They've been able to get them all on the field. I think that's a good thing. If you're the Philadelphia Phillies, who've been in the playoffs an awful lot, or the Texas Rangers, it's a different situation for you. But I think you start to breed winning right now in spring training. It carries over. The confidence does.
This guy, when healthy, has always been able to hit. And he had a horrific ankle injury a couple of years ago. And to me, it's amazing because whenever Kendrys Morales is brought up now, it seems like the ankle injury is still mentioned.
Yeah, and I'm not sure why that is. He missed a year, and actually he had that injury against the Mariners. They were playing the Angels at the Angels ballpark, and he had a home run to win the game, and he stomped on home plate, and that's when he broke his ankle. But if you look at him now, he looks completely healthy. Last year at the start of the season with the Angels, you could see that it was still a little bit of an issue, but I felt like it was more of him just not playing for an entire season. Because when we saw him in the second half, he looked like a much different player, and I know the Mariners are thrilled to have him.
He's been raking this March.
He has.
Yeah, Francis doing his thing, George, pulling the string, then pulling it a little bit more. The ball sometimes looks like it has a parachute on it.
Well, he's a pitcher. I mean, and that's the one thing. After you go through an injury and you lose velocity, you learn some new tricks, and he's done just that. Been able to add and take off of his breaking ball along with the fastball, cut it, sink it. More importantly, just throw strikes.
You mentioned the Mariners lineup, opening day lineup, and it's been something that Eric Wedge has played around with a little bit more at the top of the order. You see Gutierrez leading off. He probably will lead off on Monday night with Brett Anderson, the left-hander, going for the A's. And then after that, Dustin Ackley, who led off most of last year, is hitting down the lineup. And I think Eric would like to leave him down there early in the season just to get him started. Dustin had struggled at times. He wants to take the pressure off. So we might see Saunders actually lead off, flip-flop the two guys, Gutierrez and Saunders, when the right-hander gets the start.
Nice problem to have.
Here's the 1-2, and that's down 2-2.
And I know when I was talking to Eric today at the cages, he was excited about some of the flexibility as you see the opening day, projected opening day lineup. Seager obviously hit third last year. He's up hitting second now. But he feels that he has the right guys with some of these veterans now in the lineup to where he can spread things out and help these guys by either putting them down the lineup or give them a day's rest. And Dino, the utility infielder, of course, the Banyas can play some outfield.
And Dino's very valuable commodity because of his ability to play a number of places.
Well, and he's played them all this spring. Obviously, he can play shortstop and second base, but he's also played some third. And when you have Seager, a left-handed hitter, and Ackley, a left-handed hitter in your middle of your infield, he can give him a rest against some of those tough left-handers that at times will give a young player trouble. And he also provides a little bit of pop, too. So he can do some things. And, George, as you know, you're not going to stay healthy all year. And it's nice to have a guy that had a good year last year with Baltimore to have him on your bench.
Well, the Rockies used 50 players last year. Wow. And that's not something that you want to do, obviously.
Easy play for Reed Brignac and a very nice start for Jeff Francis. 1-2-3 through Seattle at the top of the first inning. We'll see Colorado offensively when we come back to Salt Lake City.
Springtime in the Rockies. Hi, I'm Suzanne Shaw. It's a Subaru Love Spring event at Mike Shaw Subaru. For some, spring means flowers, birds, and bulbs.
No scores. We go to the bottom of the first inning. That, of course, is Eric Young Jr., who has had a strong spring. He will lead things off as the designated hitter this afternoon for Walt Weiss. Southwest batting order for the Rockies' first-year skipper. His good buddy Dexter Fowler will bat second. Then Cargo, Tulowitzki, and Kadire. They'll be a fixture 3, 4, and 5. Todd Helton will bat sixth. Willeen Rosario, 28 home runs a year ago, will bat seventh. Josh Rutledge, now a second baseman. And Reed Brignac will be playing third, as you know, bat ninth. And the starting pitcher, great story, Brandon Maurer. He was in Double-A last year. He had a solid season in Double-A, and look at his numbers this spring.
Minor league pitcher of the year for the Mariners last year because of that season in Double-A. And in the spring, he came in with, I think, probably what looked like an outside shot to make this club. Well, with the spring that he's had and an ERA at .9, he's made the club. Looks like he'll be the number 4 starter for the Mariners this year.
The impressive thing for me, this is scouting. 23rd round draft pick out of high school.
Yeah.
23rd round.
And he's improved, obviously, with the year that he put together last year, and it's just rolled right into spring training for him.
Well, you know what he has? He's a California kid, and he has what scouts would say is a projectable body. He's 6'5" and about 220 pounds. And that's a good frame with which to work as a pitcher.
He's not necessarily an overpowering pitcher. His fastball will be in the low 90s. He'll be 91, 92 miles an hour with a pretty good sink. But I think one of the things that George will be impressed with as he watches him is when he gets in a little bit of trouble or falls behind, he'll take some off of that. All of a sudden he'll drop down 87, 88 and sink it more, which you don't see from a young pitcher kid that's 22 years old.
Do you think he's similar to Blake Beavan?
I think the biggest difference in Blake Beavan will be the number 5 starter for the Mariners this year. Is I think he's similar in some respects, but Blake uses more of a slow curveball changeup. He'll throw a hard slider Maurer will.
That's a rocket to the left of Gutierrez and a hard turn by Young, but he'll stop it first. So Eric Young Jr. continues to hit the ball with authority as he visits with Justin Smoke at first. Leadoff single, Dexter Fowler coming up. Here's our starting defense for Seattle, brought to you by the Ford Super Duty. It's built Ford tough. Seager, Ryan, Ackley, and Smoke in the infield. Morse, Gutierrez, and Saunders in a good outfield. And Jesus Montero, very similar to Willeen Rosario, trying to develop defensively. Other than that, this is a very good club on D.
Defensively, one of the better clubs that you will see with Brendan Ryan playing up the middle. He's really helped Seager and Ackley, 2 young guys that had their really first shot at playing on a regular basis last year, and Brendan Ryan controls the infield. And then anytime you can put Franklin Gutierrez in center field when he's healthy, he can go get it with the best of them. So defensively, they were one of the top in the American League last year.
How's Montero come along this spring defensively?
I think that he's the guy. I mean, he's a work in progress also, but he's a young man. He didn't get to catch on a regular basis last year, and this year he's going to be forced into that role. So it's something that Eric Wedge, a former catcher, and Jeff Datz, who works with the catchers, will keep a close eye on him. Montero obviously coming over from the Yankees. He came over because of his bat first. That was the big thing, get a right-handed bat, and he's shown some power and did a pretty good job overall last year. At times he would struggle, inconsistent like any young hitter, but he's going to get his first real shot to be behind the dish this year, and there's a lot of responsibility involved in that because he's going to handle what looks like a pretty good pitching staff.
And hopefully there are veteran staff that will help them get through there. They're a couple of young kids, but you know, you mentioned Bevan. He's a guy that's going to go out, and he should be able to help him along as a young kid, do their scouting reports together and live to it. The nice part about it, you got guys that throw strikes. They're going to pitch to the defense so he can call the game accordingly to a scouting report.
And the other thing is they went out and they had a veteran backup catcher, Kelly Shopik, to back him up. And Kelly has already talked to him quite a bit during the course of the spring training about things, more than anything, just preparing himself.
That pitch is high, 3-1. I don't think it's possible to have a much better spring than Dexter Fowler's had. Not only is he hitting .412, he's hit 4 home runs, 9 RBIs. He has 6 doubles and 2 triples as well. 12 extra base hits for a guy that will hit many times at the very top of your lineup. And when Eric Young Jr. is in there, he'll hit second. He's as comfortable, the newlywed, as we've seen him, George. You were talking about in the open. Eric Young takes off, and he's out at second base. Montero put the ball right on the bag, and that's where it needed to be.
And for Montero, he's always shown a strong arm, but it's been his footwork that they've had to work on. Sometimes he gets a little bit lazy with his feet, but I think he does a pretty good job. As you see this pitch, it's a good pitch to throw on, and he puts it right on the money. Again, he has a strong arm, but it's his footwork that they're going to stay on, and that time it was near perfect.
I wonder if that was a hit and run. You notice about halfway down, EY kind of slowed down and looked back towards the home plate area to see what the result was with the pitch. I don't know, more than a straight steal, similar. Straight steal, you're looking straight at the bag and going hard. On a hit and run, you're going to check back. But watch EY right here. About halfway down, you're going to see him looking back in and slowing down a little bit.
Yeah, that had to be a hit and run.
Stutter step.
3-2. High fly ball, shallow left field. Michael Morse. Can he see it? For a second, Michael gave the look of a guy that may have lost it in the sky. He comes up with a 2-gone. Carlos Gonzalez coming up. Here's the projected opening day lineup for the Rockies. Fowler and Rutledge batting in the 2-hole. And then Cargo, Tulowitzki, Kadire, Helton, Rosario, Chris Nelson will bat 8th. And, of course, it'll be a National League ballpark, so the pitcher will hit. Jhoulys Chacín will have the rock on. Opening day Monday afternoon at Miller Park in Milwaukee.
It's a very good lineup that's going to score some runs if it can stay healthy. If it stays healthy, it's dangerous.
Ball 1 on Cargo. In his last spring training action, he had a run-scoring double. Pretty solid spring for Carlos. Seattle puts on a semi-shift. Brendan Ryan is sort of on the left side of the diamond. He's playing at short center field right now. We've seen this a little bit more late in the season last year, George, and we've seen it some in spring training.
Well, it tells you, too, that they're going to try to pitch the defense. Off-speed stuff, try to get him to roll over something on the ground, and if that's the case, that's what you get. Otherwise, you get one of these.
Yeah, this is a loud fly ball to deep center field, and it's going to die in the middle of the warning track. So Cargo just missed it. Crowd got excited. We've played one frame, no score. Seattle and Colorado.
It is a gorgeous day in Salt Lake City for the Mariners and the Rockies to play a big league game at Spring Mobile Ballpark. We welcome you back. In fact, Salt Lake City was an affiliate of the Seattle Mariners back from 1982 to 1984. They were the Salt Lake City Gulls at the time, but this franchise has a 100-year history that began back in 1915. The Salt Lake City Bees originated here in Salt Lake City. They eventually became the Hollywood Stars and, in fact, moved the team at that point to Los Angeles. But throughout the course of history, they've changed affiliates between the Cubs, the Padres, and now they are back to the Angels and back to being the Salt Lake City Bees. And from what I can tell around here and around town, I think Bees are the name that everyone wants to have. Guys?
All right, Jenny, thank you. Michael Morse is up. Yeah, baseball goes back to 1915. There were a lot of Rockies fans in attendance this afternoon as well, and this is part of Rockies territory.
For those that don't know, the country's broken up in terms of areas and where you can bring your regional broadcasts, and this is Rockies territory. So a lot of folks see the Rockies during the regular season, despite the fact that the Angels are their AAA affiliates there. There's some Rockies folks. I keep coming back to this. What an ideal afternoon for baseball. And I've been to Salt Lake City, as I'm sure you guys have, many, many times, covering other sports, football and basketball. And the backdrop here of the mountains, I think that's the Wasatch Range in the background. Somebody will correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, you're talking about this just flat gorgeous.
Well, that's probably why, if you don't hear Mike and I talking, we're just kind of in a nice little gaze of looking out at the mountains and looking at everything and how beautiful it is here. It's a gorgeous setting. First time I was ever here, 96 AAA All-Star game, and did it as a broadcaster. That was fun. Come into this in the ballpark, as beautiful as it is. Fans everywhere.
Nice play by Todd Helton, taking an extra base hit from Kyle Seager. 2 outs.
I'd never been to Salt Lake City till I arrived yesterday. And it's just there, you take a look at those pictures. It's just beautiful, and it's all around the ballpark and the city, everywhere you look. It's absolutely gorgeous.
Even though we have some of the best skiing in the world in Colorado, every once in a while I'll come over here and ski. And the great thing is you can stay in downtown Salt Lake City and within a half hour, 40 minutes tops, be at another world-class area and actually stay in the city and just scoot up. And that's it's a nice feature. Park City, of course, world-famous Park City's right down the road. 2 outs.
I saw a number of
smoke
signs
at the plate.
Yeah, I saw a number of signs advertising to get you there in 20 minutes, Drew.
Is that right?
Shuttles all over the place.
I was driving.
Well, I was trying to avoid a speeding ticket when I've been over. Breaking ball on the outside corner, 1-1. And Smoke struggled some last year, Mike, but this spring, the former Rangers performed well. On the backhand side, Tulowitzki and a strong arm. Jeff Francis has retired all 6 he's seen. Middle of 2. No score at Spring Mobile Ballpark in Salt Lake City. We asked our Twitter followers this week to join us for our Root Sports Rivalry, a battle of the regions to show which Root Sports region has the loudest fans, Northwest or Rocky Mountain. Monday's battle was Salmon Burgers versus Buffalo Burgers. The Rocky Mountain region won this battle, 67% of the votes coming in for Buffalo Burgers, 33% for Salmon Burgers. Keep watching for more Root Sports Rivalry results. And the irony is, I would have voted for Salmon Burgers, and I had a Salmon Burger last night before I left Denver.
Now, what's
true? It was awesome. It was surprisingly so because I cooked it. I was on the grill. All the boys were over, and I decided to have Salmon Burgers for myself. They had more conventional burgers, but I I didn't do something I normally do, and that's burn stuff on the grill.
I'm pretty good at that myself.
It's part of the male identity, isn't it, to burn things?
Well, it gets
on the
done
grill?
faster, doesn't it?
Hey, absolutely. I just crank it up. What are you going to put medium on? Frazier's looking at me because he thinks he's Julia Child.
No, I can cook, but it's country.
Here's the 1-1 on Tulowitzki from Brandon Maurer. Good slider. 1-2. He's got the big league beard.
He does. He's a lot of fun too. You talk to him after the games or ask him how spring training was going all this year. And a lot of it is because he's pitched well, but he just doesn't seem to have any stress about it at all. And if you ask him, well, do you think you're going to make the club, not make the club? How do you feel, especially as it was getting later in spring? I don't know. I'm just having fun pitching, looking forward to pitching this year wherever it is. And it's genuinely his attitude about the entire thing. That's probably the reason why he's had success.
Well,
no pressure there.
No, very relaxed on the mound, not trying to force every single pitch. But it also helps when an organization says, hey, you're in the mix of one of these 7, 8 guys that have a chance to make this ball club as a starting pitcher. Go out and pitch. Let's see what happens to it. So now you have a little bit more relaxed frame about it. He had great success last year at 9-2. That adds to it.
0-1 on Michael Kadire. He knows this ballpark well. This was his home. And he was coming up in the Twins organization for a little bit.
Phil Roof was his manager. You don't remember that name, do you?
I sure do.
And in foul ground, Justin Smoke makes the catch. Kadire retired. Let's look at the rotation initially for the Seattle Mariners. You know who's going to begin. That's King Felix. He'll have the baseball on Monday. And then Iwakuma, left-hander Joe Saunders, the kid you're watching today, Brandon Maurer, and Blake Bevan will be in the 5th spot. So Maurer in that 4-game set will throw on Thursday against Oakland. No day off.
No day off. The Mariners, I believe, played 14 in a row to start the year.
How'd that happen?
I don't know. But
who'd you guys get? Who'd you guys get angry at or get ticked off in New York?
I think it's just part of the deal of being in Seattle. They feel that because we fly more than anybody else, they may as well just get some of that out of the way early, and that's basically what we're doing. But I'm excited to see this young man go this year and see what he's able to accomplish. Again, he's pitched well this spring. And the other one is Iwakuma. Iwakuma actually started in the bullpen, was forgotten at the beginning of the year, and slowly worked himself back in where he was in the rotation towards the end of the year. And he's somebody that I think that the club really likes a lot. I like him a lot. He really pitched well, changes speeds, and I think he's more comfortable this year. Last year's first year with the Mariners. And then, of course, Joe Saunders, a veteran guy that's been around. With the departure of Vargas, which is how the Mariners picked up Morales in that trade with the Angels, they needed somebody else, and so they went and signed Joe Saunders.
2-1 count on Todd Helton. Todd has had a hit in his last 5 spring at bats. He has swung the bat exceptionally well. Legs are underneath him, the hip and the knee are healthy. And this ball is lathered to left center field and deep and off the very top of the wall. And kick it back towards center field. That's 6 straight knocks for Helton now. And George, that's a long way to the opposite field. You flash back to when Todd wore younger man's shoes.
Well, that's what's impressive to me is the opposite field home run. He did that to Cueto the other day, 425 into left center field in Phoenix, and then here he turns around a fastball up and away from him and drives it right out to the base of the wall at 420. The bat speed, that's the one thing I heard from a lot of scouts when I would call back and say, how's Todd look at the plate? And I said, bat speed is back. And when you hear that for Helton, with his eyesight and his ability to hit the ball, it's all good signs.
Here's Rosario, outside ball 1.
One more look at this. Yeah, this is right up. Everybody thought it was home run. Right up on top, just
a couple inches.
Yeah.
That's watching Gutierrez and Morrison. I think they thought it was going to go out.
One thing was for sure, they weren't going to catch it. And they knew it.
1-0 on the baby bull, Willeen Rosario. Speaking of power. Full side power. Opposite field power. Walt Weiss was asked a couple days ago who has more pop, Rosario or Cargo, and he had to think about it for, I mean, he sat there for about 10-12 seconds and he said, you know, I'll go with Cargo, but it's real close. He had 28 jacks last year, and not a full amount of at-bats. That's why I think there's some fair comparisons, Mike, to Jesus Montero and Rosario. They got here quickly because of their bat, and they're still, as you said, a work in progress defensively.
And in this, obviously, for me, it's the toughest position to play on a daily basis. You have to deal with a lot of different personalities, different styles of pitchers, and the most important thing is supposed to be your defense when you're playing up the middle, and these guys get here because they can hit. And for the Mariners, it was a real need. They needed some offense, and I think now they're hopeful that Montero will be able to do the job behind the plate on a daily basis, and he's going to get that chance this year.
Hilton at second, 2 outs, no score, bottom of inning number 2.
The other thing impressive about your young pitcher, he has confidence to throw the slider behind him counts. Watched it twice now. Tough right-handed hitters. Tulowitzki now here with Rosario. Came back on a 2-2 count at 2-1 and ball booty.
Dustin Ackley was swung up the middle, and it's still a play he's got to make. So it'll be first and third with 2 out, and Josh Rutledge will come up.
Well, that's what extends innings on young pitchers. You've got to be able to make this play. That's an easy play. He's got to be able to make it, make the throw, and then you end the inning, you're sitting in the dugout. Instead, now you're going to tax 15. You could tax 10 to 15 more pitches on a young pitcher.
Well, it's one of the things, that's a rare miscue by Ackley. At times, he doesn't look like he's the smoothest out at second base, but he typically catches everything. And so Maurer will look back, and more times than not, that play will be made for him.
Well, and a difference, too, between a lot of young pitchers and an older veteran. A veteran makes the pitch right now to get out of the inning.
That's right.
Pick up your middle infield.
Well, it goes back to one of the things you and I were talking about when you were asking me about Maurer. The thing that's been impressive about him in the spring is his ability, either when he's behind or in trouble, to take some off his fastball. And it usually takes pitchers years to get to that point.
Rutledge pulls it down the line. That is foul. Not by a whole lot.
With all the stars that are in the Rockies lineup, sometimes Rutledge gets forgotten about how much he can swing the bat. This is a good-looking young hitter. Came up last year in the middle of the season, performed well.
That time he had a hanging slider to hit.
Yeah, he did.
Hard.
Had a happy slider.
Yeah.
First and third with 2 outs. Peters up high, 1-2. So you mentioned the miles. How many miles this year? They added up yet? 35,000 or so?
Oh, no. We'll be well past that. We're typically 50 plus.
Is that right? This is line to center field, and coming on making the catch is Gutierrez. So no harm done by the Ackley error. Todd Helton had a double. 2 left on. On to the third we go. No score.
Here's a present from your spring.
Welcome back to Spring Mobile Ballpark in Salt Lake City. The Mariners and the Rockies scoreless as we head to the top of the third. Well, as Drew mentioned early, Michael Cuddyer spent some time here in Salt Lake City when he was coming up in the Twins organization. They weren't the Bees then, they were the Buzz, but for Michael Cuddyer, this ballpark will always be special.
I love it. It's probably my top 2 or 3 favorite professional ballparks in the country, including big leagues. The backdrop is the best backdrop in all of professional baseball, and stadium's great. Fans were great when I was here, and I loved it here.
Well, I can understand why Mike Cuddyer, Michael loves this ballpark. As we were showing you the pictures, splendid place to play. You're in a good-sized city. Jesus Montero's at the plate. Jeff Francis 6 up, 6 down. And he misses inside. 2 balls and a strike. Montero 15 home runs last year, hit .260. Big acquisition from the New York Yankees last winter. And off the end of the bat, shallow right field, and Cuddyer, look out. That's what you don't want to see in the spring, and both guys are down. Oh, man, that is the exact reason teams are very cautious late in the spring. And you can see Cuddyer, he's like, you're not going to dive here on the eve of the start of the season, and he held up, and they still ended up colliding. Rutledge and Cuddyer. Now Michael's getting up. He may have had the wind knocked out of him, and just the way they're looking at Rutledge, it may be very similar. Scotty Garrett there attending to Josh Rutledge. I think honestly it's the scariest play in baseball. It's not typical that it happens there, but on pop-ups in short right center and left center field, Mike, as you know, we're an infielder's hauling out and an outfielder's coming in, and everybody's looking up, and we've seen some big-time collisions.
Well, one of the worst ones I have seen is a guy that the Mariners just signed about 5 days ago. Endy Chavez back with the Mariners now, and it really stalled his career when he blew his knee on a similar thing. But here you have the mound involved in it also, which you don't see in the Major League ballparks anymore. It looked like he was kicked in the head. Cuddyer get kicked in the head. And
that was a pretty good collision.
Yeah, there's nothing good happening there.
Yeah, I think the only ballpark with the mound's outside now is Wrigley Field. That's it. Everything else is tucked away.
And they're not going to even mess around. Charlie Culberson's coming in at second base. Josh Rutledge will walk off.
Oakland in the American League.
In Oakland, yeah. Oakland,
but Oakland,
American League.
You have a football field to get to.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a big man running into you. Cuddyer, 225, 230 pounds.
Well, I go back to when Gonzalez and Stewart 3 or 4 years ago at Salt River, a couple of years ago when they collided down the left field line, lost both players for quite a while, and Stewart basically has ruined his whole spring for him. Ian Stewart and been the same player since.
Literally the first batted ball of spring training in a game.
In the new ballpark.
At Salt River Fields, down the third base line. 3-way collision. Dustin Ackley at the plate, former number 2 pick in the draft. Struggled with the bat last year. He's had a big spring. Rockies pulling the infield in here. pulls it to first. Helton will eyeball Montero. And there's one out. Former St. Louis Cardinal Brendan Ryan, hitting out of the 9th spot, will step up. Everybody, when they assess Brendan Ryan, it always begins with great defender.
And that's a fact. I thought that he should have won the Gold Glove last year in the American League. He was that good at shortstop and consistently good. But he really struggled offensively, and I think that's what ended up hurting him, and you wonder why, fielding George. But you have to swing the bat a little bit, too, and he really struggled.
But, you know, back in the day, I mean, I say 70s and 80s, you know, the shortstops hit 220 to 240. But they caught everything in sight. They turned double plays. Right. They did everything they needed to do to become very good defensive shortstops. And I think with you, if you have other offense surrounding it, he hit what he wants to. If he's saving a bunch of runs every month, it's not going to hurt to have it out there.
Well, he is.
Yeah,
he is. You go talk to the pitching staff; they love him. They want him out there every day, regardless of what he's hitting. But the good news is he came to spring training and made a real effort to stay back up in the middle of the field. At times last year, he was trying to pull the ball and maybe doing too much and just getting himself into trouble. The other thing, I was talking to him today around the cage. He said that he's made a real effort to try to bunt this spring, too.
This is popped up, and Tulowitzki is going to make the play. Now they're 2 outs, and Montero has not moved. That'll bring up Gutierrez at the top of the order. Walt Weiss, first year as a skipper of the Rockies, and I think so much and probably too much was made of the fact that he hadn't managed before. And saw some national publications saying the Rockies hired a guy that was head coach of a high school team a year ago, Regis High School. I mean, the guy played the big leagues for 15 years, and he was in uniform as recently as a couple of years ago. Basically, the high school had the luxury of having a guy with a wealth of experience. Now, he has not managed, and he'll lean heavily on Tommy Runnels, but in terms of knowing the game and playing shortstop for as long as he did, I think Walt will do just fine. That's over in left field, and Carlos Gonzalez makes a catch. A leadoff bloop triple, but no harm done from the Rockies' perspective. No score.
We are still waiting for somebody to score as we head to the bottom of the 3rd inning. Angie Mentink here reminding you to join us for Mariners opening night on Monday, April 8th. And you'll be witness to one of the greatest events of the year. See the fireworks and fanfare, the pageantry, and the players all in one unforgettable evening at Safeco Field. Great seats are still available for opening night. There's only one at Mariners.com. Let's get you back to Drew and Company.
Angie, thank you very much. No score here as we go to the bottom of the third inning. Rockies will have 9-1-2 in their lineup. Reed Brignac, Eric Young, Dexter Fowler, and we welcome Mark Amiconi, who's the general manager of the Salt Lake City Bees, to our booth. Thank you first and foremost for putting together this beautiful spring afternoon.
You're welcome. That's we were hoping we could come up with the weather, and that was job one.
Well, being from right over the hills, we're used to it. I think last year, if memory serves me correctly, Mark, it was absolutely gorgeous on opening day, maybe even in the low 70s. 2 days later, we got snowed out. You can relate.
Yeah, and I was telling people we were here actually last Saturday with about 3 inches of snow covering the whole field. So 1 week ago, and we open up next Thursday. So I always get a little concerned. Can you get 2 weeks in a row? 2 weeks in a row. But look at that view there. That's what makes it pretty special.
You may have heard Michael Kadire was saying when he played here, it remains one of his 2 or 3 favorite venues in all of baseball. And he's talking about the big leagues also.
Yeah, we did hear that. And as a matter of fact, I understand he tweeted it 2 years ago when we hosted the All-Star game here. At some point before you guys leave, I need to tell him thanks because he's been extremely complimentary to this ballpark in Salt Lake City.
Mark, I was following on Twitter and also online. You guys sold this thing out rapidly.
In under an hour. It caught us by a little bit of surprise. I mean, we really felt like we could sell it out, but we're used to walk-up crowds here. Obviously, it comes late, and that's why weather played such a critical role because we thought we'd sell tickets late. But we were actually at the winter meetings the day they went on sale, and that's your play. You're the play-by-play guy, but I can't take my eyes off the ball.
No, that was absolutely.
But we were at winter meetings when they went on sale, and we got texted what had happened, and it was, is my phone broken, or is this really the case? It was fabulous.
Looks like a standing room only crowd. A ton of folks on the berm.
They do enjoy that berm out there. It's one of my favorite things. I walk around the ballpark pretty much every one of our games, and to watch moms and dads with little kids running around the berm, you know, that's the memorable kind of stuff when you're out there. And, you know, one of the things I like about baseball is it's a little more laid back, a little less formal, or not quite so intense, perhaps, as some other sports. So you can socialize. You can have a little more fun with your family or associates. And I tell people this a lot of times. One of the fun things about Bees games, we have a lot of first dates here. It's a pretty nice place to come on a first date. It's pretty laid back, and we have a few proposals here. But we love this ballpark, and obviously right now the city of Salt Lake and our community likes baseball.
And it's a big league city. You've had the Utah Jazz for years and years, and I know you have a long affiliation with the University of Utah. I believe you played at the University of Utah, did you not?
Just a couple years ago, yeah, a long time ago, way back there.
And of course, BYU right down the road in Provo. This is a great area in terms of following sports, and major college football, basketball, and baseball is played here. So it doesn't surprise me to see this kind of turnout.
Yeah, there are days, in fact, that BYU, Utah, Utah State, Weber State used to play basketball like the same nights, and all 4 of them be sold out. Utah and BYU play football same day, and they're both full, and a Jazz game those same nights. And the community really does like their sports here.
I know folks are excited today. Jazz moved back into the final playoff spot in the Western Conference.
Yeah, we're really excited for that. Obviously, our ownership group, the Miller family, also owns the Jazz and the Bees, so we follow that very closely every day this time of year.
Well, you had a treat for a little bit last year, but the previous year, in having one of the great talents we've seen in the last quarter century in the game called this ballpark home, of course, Mike Trout.
Yeah, and I get asked that question. You know, he was here a short period of time, and we get asked about how good he was. But honestly, my memories of him, and this is one of those things you hope continues, he was such a great kid. I mean, the first day he was here, he would walk around the office, and at media day he was talking to everyone. Hi, I'm Mike. Hi, I'm Mike. Who are you? What do you do? You know, and it didn't matter who you were, and that's fun to see. He just really enjoys playing the game.
Well, he's doing a pretty good job, and there's probably a great chance, Mark, unfortunately, he's not back here in Salt Lake City.
I would say probably not. You know, and it was fun. I saw Kendry Morales before the ball game. He played here. We've had an awful lot of very good ball players here.
Hey, Mark, thanks very much for your hospitality. Appreciate it. Good luck this season.
Thank you. Have a safe trip back.
Mark Amicone is the general manager of the Salt Lake City Bees. No score as we go to the fourth. Francis has been very good, and Brandon Maurer has been very good for Seattle as we go to the fourth inning. No score, just 3 hits. We asked our Twitter followers this week to join us for our Root Sports rivalry, a battle of the regions we were talking about earlier. Wednesday's battle was rain versus snow. The Northwest region won this battle with 63% of the votes coming in for rain and 37% voting for snow. Keep watching for more Root Sports rivalry results. Okay. George, you give me a very peculiar look. I've seen that look before.
It rained almost 2.5 inches in Oklahoma. My hay pasture, I loved it. Just keep raining.
Michael Saunders gets a big curveball for a strike. And it's 1 ball and 2 strikes.
I wasn't surprised to see 63% chance of rain in Seattle. But the good news, tomorrow, Easter Sunday, it's supposed to be 70.
Wow.
I know.
Last time the Rockies were at your place, Safeco, which was a gorgeous ballpark, we had the absolute Chamber of Commerce weekend. There was not a cloud in the sky Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It was a weekend series. And I always say, because I spent a lot of time in Seattle, if you had that weather all the time, the entire nation would try to move into downtown Seattle.
That's why we try to keep it a secret. That's why we tell everybody it rains all the time.
There you go. Ground ball left side. That's a tough pickup by Brignac. Trying to get an in-between hop. He came up with it, and Saunders is retired.
It is a short hop. It's a difficult play. Is that where you just turn the head and try to pick it, Mike?
It is. I always say for third baseman, you get some of the funniest hops over there, and you're better off being aggressive. A little bit of a hesitation almost ate him up, but it showed some good hands by able to handle that.
Soft hands.
Yeah.
Kendry Morales, he had 22 home runs last year with the Angels. Better than 270 at the plate. That ball is hammered. If it's fair, it's gone, and it is a foul ball. Boy, do you ever get the barrel out there?
Loud. Strike. Kids wanted to catch it. Unfortunately, they had a fence stopping him. Oh, he did get it.
Mariner fans are hoping to see a lot of that this year with him. I think they will.
Look at that. Did you see that grouping? You had the A's represented, the Cubs represented, the Cardinals represented. Who else we got there? We got BYU represented. Utah. Two different, the University of Utah with the shirt. And Morales hits this well to left field. And this one will get on out of here. Kendrys Morales flirted with a home run and then hit one for real. 1-0 Seattle. He had a good at bat if you think about it, going back to the first inning. He had a lengthy at bat, saw a number of pitches from Jeff Francis. Trying to translate it perhaps, Mike, into this AD.
At first, I saw a number of off-speed pitches, and then Francis tries to get back into his kitchen. It looked like it jammed him just a little bit, but Morales strong. And for a hitter, a nice little breeze blowing out to left field, had just enough of it to hit it over the fence.
Well, and the difference, too, of 87, 88 versus 92, 93 trying to get in that kitchen, it does just clear the wall. Nice catch.
Michael Morse at the plate. I've already scrambling for lineup cards because the Rockies have made some changes. Carlos Gonzalez is out of there. Torrealba is now behind the plate.
Don't worry, Drew. The regular season will be starting soon.
Thank you. Francisco Sosa, who's going to be going to Asheville. Kid with a lot of powers out there in left field. Here's Charlie Culberson, the former San Francisco Giant. And Morse is retired.
Young man that's ticketed to go to Asheville, so it's one of those guys with some big time power.
Still out there because his number coming up offensively. He gets it to Jeff Francis, but Seattle gets on the board. Kendrys Morales with his first home run of the spring. 1-0 Mariners. Mariners leading 1-0 on the Kendrys Morales home run. The Rockies have Tulowitzki, Kadire, and Helton here in the 4th inning. This game brought to you in part by Taco Bell. Sometimes you got to live Moss. Salt Lake City, the high country, still plenty of snow. With Mike Blowers, George Frazier, and Jenny Cavnar, I'm Drew Goodman. Glad you're looking in, whether you're up in the Pacific Northwest or in the Rocky Mountain region today. Tulowitzki grounded to third, facing Brandon Maurer, and Tulo may have tied this thing up. He just did. That came within about 5 feet of completely leaving the ballpark. Almost hit it over the berm. So Tulowitzki ties it at 1. And he can jog right up the stairs to the clubhouse, because I think that's the last you'll see of him this afternoon.
Right, a young pitcher made a couple of mistakes, got away with them on Gonzalez. This one he doesn't get away with. Bell-tie fastball running back to the middle of the plate, right in the wheelhouse of Tulowitzki.
Kadire fouled out the first, his first time up.
For Maurer, I was talking to Eric Wedge before the game. I asked how far he was going to go today. They said he'd be around 75 pitches. They've stretched him out to 95 his last couple of outings, and he says he's going to take him back just a little bit.
Yeah, the biggest thing you fear with a young kid or any pitcher in spring training is you stretch him out to 95. If you don't back him off, you teeter on that point of getting a dead arm, where it doesn't hurt. Nothing's wrong. It just doesn't feel like there's any life in it, and it takes about 6-7 days to build it back up again. And you got Kadire to chase a breaking ball in the dirt. Be able to get the first out here in the 5th.
Second strikeout from Maurer. Todd Helton doubled off the very top of the left center field wall his first time up. The third meeting this spring between the Rockies and Mariners. Mariners won the first couple. It's Todd's first AB. That's it. They're 1-1. Three balls and a strike. Corey Blazer is calling balls and strikes. There's this one to deep left field, and this is gone. That is 7 straight hits for Todd Helton. In all likelihood to end the spring. We've seen an opposite field double about 395 feet from home plate, and then he goes oppo, leaving the yard.
Well, Tulowitzki's home run was impressive. High, long, distance, everything else. But for me, that home run by Helton, going to the opposite field, I mean, just scalded it. Yeah, that's we talked about bat speed, strength, everything feeling good. Obviously, an elevated pitch again from Maurer, and it's gone in a hurry.
He's been impressive in both of his at-bats. You talk about the long home run by Tulowitzki, but those two, the one hit the fence and that one, both on a line also, George.
Tell you what, those are swings circa 2006, 2005 from Helton. Torrealba backs out, and pitchers hate that, and I don't blame Maurer for being upset with Corey Blazer. You risk injury, George. You know that when you stop the pitcher,
it's horrible. Yeah, most guys will go ahead and just throw the ball, even if it's at about 80 miles an hour. The young kid's a little aggravated. Couple of home runs given up here in the 5th.
First at bat for Torrealba.
And his arm's starting to come through here.
Can't
I mean,
stop him there.
The umpire should have never stopped him.
No way. I mean, Torrealba can back out all he wants, but the umpire doesn't have to grant it. 2 outs, and that'll bring up Charlie Culberson. The good news is Josh Rutledge, we had a collision earlier in the game if you're just joining us. Rutledge going out for a pop-up right down the right field line, collided with Michael Kadire. Both were shaken up. Rutledge, they both got up eventually. Rutledge came out of the ball game. The good news is Rutledge is on the bench, so I'm sure he came out just for precautionary reasons. There was the collision.
I mean, that's a shoulder right in the ribs.
So it looked like it knocked the wind out of him.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty good indication Josh is okay.
Tell you, I like that. You said that young kid's just kind of a laid-back dude, you know, didn't do a whole lot. He barked pretty good on that. He's a little upset. I like that. Got a little fire in the stomach.
Yeah, I liked it too. And I think that Rosario thought he was yelling at him, and it looked to me like he was more yelling at the umpire. And so they had a few words. I was happy to see Montero, also a young player, step in the middle of it and try to settle them both down.
Well, you got a veteran guy, Torrealba, sitting up there at the plate. And Torrealba's, you know, jumped out late. And I'm really surprised. You're right, the umpire giving him a timeout. Shouldn't have happened.
2-2 on Charlie Culberson. It'll be a pretty good AAA team in Colorado Springs, George. Culberson's been up to the big league, still a very young player. Rockies got him in the Marco Scutaro deal. He's got some decent pop. He runs decent.
Well, you think about that AAA ball club you're talking about. Charlie Bachman, Tim Wheeler's there, Corey Dickerson's there, Culberson, Paulson, Lars Davis. I mean, there's some guys, Nolan Arenado. There's some players there. DJ LeMahieu, Manzella playing short. It's a good ball club. And that's where that young staff's got to go down and get tested, Drew. I mean, at the Pomerantz, Chatwood, Friedrichs, they've got to go down and be able to pitch well. Aaron Cook signed late. Will be the 5th starter down there. Cody Woods returned from the Texas Rangers, Rule 5 pick. Will work out of the bullpen as a closer.
Mauer strikes out Culberson to end the inning. The Rockies get a couple of solo home runs to take a 2-1 lead. Tulowitzki at help. 2-1 as we go to the 5th in Salt Lake City.
It's a present from your grandma.
Troy Tulowitzki helping Colorado out with a home run of his own in the fourth. We welcome you back in the top of the fifth as the Rockies are up over the Mariners 2-1. You know, this is the first Major League game he played here in Salt Lake City since 1970. The last time a Major League game was played here, it was the A's and the Padres playing. In fact, Don Zimmer was the manager of the Salt Lake City Padres that year. This is only year managing the team. Of course, a former Rockies coach. Here's some archive pictures for you. 98 years old is the history of this franchise. They've spent time in Salt Lake, Southern California, and Canada.
Justin Smoak has just tied it up, Jenny, with a line shot home run over the left field wall at 2. Continue on. Some great old pictures.
Some good pictures in the archive, indeed. The early days, they were first known as the Salt Lake City Bees in 1915. In fact, this city landed a franchise because the San Francisco Mission Wolves folded and moved the team over here. Of course, they haven't spent their entire 98 years in Salt Lake City, but they have moved back, and as of 2005, they moved back to the name, the Salt Lake City Bees. As we know, fellas, what's old becomes new again, right?
Or so I've been told.
I'm waiting on that new part to come back. I've got the old part down pretty good.
Johnny Herrera now is short. And he gets it across the diamond in time for the first out in the 5th inning.
7 hits given up for him left the yard. 2 of them off the wall.
And there's Justin Smoak. What a spring he has had. And again, it's a good first step for Justin. And my hope is that he gets off to a good start as the season goes, just to take a lot of pressure off himself. But he's definitely made some adjustments coming into spring training, and it's apparent his balance is a lot better. Shortened up his stride a little bit.
Well, I think there's a lot of guys stubborn, though. I don't know. And for you, Mike, that the #1 draft pick, I can do this and do that. I'm not going to change anything. Get him in a trade, scuffles a little bit, and then finally, after okay, I'm going to listen. I'll change some things.
And sometimes it takes a little bit of time. And Justin, of course, a switch hitter. Take a look at this pitch in the middle of the plate and lines it out of the ballpark. But you're absolutely right, George. At times, it takes a little bit of failure before you're willing to make a change. But you can see how nice and short that stride is and the balance that he has. He's a strong man. And if they can get him going on both sides of the plate and have Morales in the lineup too, you have something. Of course, Dustin Ackley also having a good spring.
Culberson goes out. Ackley 2 outs. Rockies have had a number of changes. They brought a lot of young minor leaguers, some veteran minor leaguers also with them, which is pretty typical final spring training game, especially if it is at a different site. I know Seattle's done the same thing. The outfield now has Francisco Sosa, David Candelas. They're actually, you know what, Jordan Pacheco's now out in left field. Interesting. So Sosa's come out. And did Sosa move to right, or is that Iribarren out there? We'll have to get a jersey number.
Sosa's in right.
Sosa's now in right. Okay. So Sosa's now in right. And Brignac, Johnny Herrera left side. Culberson and Jordan Rivera is at first base. Torrealba's behind the plate. Jeff Francis, as you can see, still out on the hill. There's Rivera at first.
And I'm wondering if Eric Wedge is staying with the regulars a little bit longer today. The Mariners will go to the Bay Area after the game. Supposed to have a workout tomorrow, but it's supposed to rain. And I was talking to Eric during batting practice today and asked him what he was going to do with the guys if it was raining. And he said he'd still have them come out and do a few things, but he wanted them to get some work in today. So he's leaving him a little bit longer.
And Brendan Ryan with a tweener. So a double with 2 outs for Ryan in a 2-2 ball game. Endy Chavez will come up and hit here for Franklin Gutierrez.
Hey, look at this swing by Brendan Ryan. Gets a fastball. It's down and in the middle of the plate. Again, Brennan's been working on doing just what you saw there, hitting the ball into the gaps more and not trying to pull the ball so much. And he can help this club offensively if he can get on the bases because Brennan runs well. It's a nice double for him. And welcome back, Andy Chavez. We're talking about those tweener plays, and we saw Andy tear his knee up a number of years ago with the Mariners, and they just re-signed him, so it's nice to have him back in a Mariner uniform.
What a tremendous outfielder.
It really is, and he's just a good player. He's one of those guys I would call a winning player. He can do a lot of things for you at the plate, willing to bunt, and if he has to pull the ball to the right side to give himself up, he's willing to do that and able to do it. But another veteran guy now that'll be in the Mariners system.
Slow hook, and it's a 2-strike count on Chavez. 4 solo home runs. Kendrys Morales, Justin Smoak for Seattle, Tulowitzki and Helton for the Rockies. And a rollover ground ball. Culberson moving quickly because Chavez can run. In the inning, Justin Smoak ties it up with a line drive home run over the left field wall.
Justin Smoak's home run has us all tied up again as we head to the bottom of the 5th. A reminder to join us this Monday at Safeco Field, if you can, when we invite all fans to come and watch the Mariners and the A's live on the new HD video board. This thing's huge. It's baseball's opening night, and we're celebrating with free admission and parking, $5 beers and food specials, plus pick up a free True to the Blue t-shirt when you pre-register for the event at mariners.com/open house. Drew, back to you.
Angie, thank you. 9-1-2 for the Rockies here at the bottom of the 5th inning, tied up at 2. Reed Brignac walked his first time up. He'll lead off against Brandon Maurer, then Eric Young. The first pitch in there for a strike. Oh, we got a new pitcher. It's the closer. Tom Wilhelmsen is in the ball game.
Tom really thrown the ball well this spring. You see the high ERA. He had a couple of outings where he struggled early on, but again, Tom with a good fastball, being 95 to 97 miles an hour, hard curve ball. At the end of last year, he started to use a changeup against power-hitting left-handed hitters. It was an effective pitch for him.
And Brendan Ryan probably was not going to be able, as good as Ryan is, that would have been a tough guy to throw out. Brignac runs decently. It's come out of the left side of the box, so it'll be a base hit.
Slapped over into that hole. It's very difficult to make the backhand that deep unless you've got just an extremely strong arm, cocked cleanly and make a play.
Which he does. And he'll get rid of it quickly, too. It would have been interesting, been fun to watch him try to make the play. I think you're right. I don't think he would have been able to get him, but it would have been fun to watch him. A number of other changes for the Mariners. Kelly Shopik is now behind the plate, taking over from Montero.
Veteran receiver. Well, this is where Walt George can have a little bit of fun when you're in a tight ball game, middle innings. You have a leadoff guy on, and then you have Eric Young Jr., who really puts pressure on the defense because of his ability to bunt and also run.
Speed, pushing speed, bunt the ball, bunt and run. There's a lot of other things you can do with it now. You can bunt for the base hit and advance, steal a base, protect him with the fake bunt. Most leadoff hitters are pretty good two-strike hitters. They know how to fight balls off, work counts back to their favor.
There goes the runner, and it's a comebacker, and they get the out there, and then an airmail.
Jenny, make the play, Jenny.
In the direction of our Jenny Cavnar, and that went out of play. And so Eric Young Jr. will move to second. We've just been told Jenny flipped sides. She's on the Seattle side right now. So fortunately, Jenny was out of harm's way.
It was a good play by Tom Wilhelmsen. He gets rid of it quickly, and it's an accurate throw. But unfortunate for Dustin Ackley, he gets his legs tangled up and airmails it.
I mean, it almost looks as if looked like they got into the feet of him a little bit too.
Guys,
turn.
I can sense what's coming, so I moved to the third base side. Just so you know for the future. If you ever need me to tell your fortune, I can probably do that.
We always knew you were clairvoyant.
Don't buy a lotto ticket till next week, Drew.
Next week. Okay, thank you. This is David Candelas. Excuse me. Came in for Dexter Fowler in center field. I'm going to try again. Candelas.
Candelas went and played in the WBC with Australia. Pretty nice, huh? Playing A-ball, then go play in that. He had an opportunity to do it.
How many Mariners were involved? Saunders.
It's Saunders. Let's see. I'm trying to think back to that now. It seems so long ago. They didn't have many. Oliver Perez was with Team Mexico. Only 3. They had 3 of them. And I will come up with the other one shortly, but it was Oliver Perez and Saunders. And Saunders really enjoyed his time playing for Team Canada. He really, really enjoyed that chance to talk to him right after he came back. And he thought it was a lot of fun. Of course, they played well, too. So.
Every few years when the WBC comes around, we talk about how many terrific players there are north of the border and how many more are populating the minor leagues. And a sharp ground ball. Nice pickup. And the out is made at first base. Nicely done by Dustin Ackley. Moving to third is Eric Young Jr. with 2 outs.
Well, take a look at it. Dustin playing up the middle. Trying to shoot the hole over on the right side. Catches it almost behind him. Pretty good play. We saw him boot the ball earlier. Again, typically he has good hands. That was a nice play. Showing a little bit of range to his left.
Here's Sosa, and he gets a breaking ball for a strike. Francisco Sosa. What a great thrill for we're talking about low minor league guys getting an opportunity to play in a big league spring training game. This kid has a ton of pop. Out of the Dominican Republic, ticketed for Asheville, which is the Sally League, which is low A ball.
Well, you'd like to initiate him there a little bit. Things going well. You can pop him out to Modesto, to Advanced A, where you run into some more, a little more developed pitching. I think if you get a little harder throwers, you get guys with better command.
Nice block behind the plate by Shopik. Have auto glass damage? Call Safelite Auto Glass, America's vehicle glass experts at 303-287-5000 or go to safelight.com.
Drew, would you like me to help you out with a couple of changes for the Mariners?
Sure.
Ibanez in left. Chavez stays in center field. Jason Bay is out in right.
Jason Bay.
Yeah.
Well, wait a minute. You normally change with minor leaguers. You got guys that were all-stars you're moving in the outfield.
Veteran guys.
What's going on?
That's nice.
So one Canadian for another in right field.
There you go.
2-2 ball game. as we move to the 6th inning in Salt Lake City. Take a look at our Cooney Lexus look back. All of the runs have been via the long ball. Kendrys Morales off Jeff Francis made it 1-0, and then Troy Tulowitzki the very next inning would tie it at 1. And then Todd Helton coming up a couple hitters later went opposite field. He started with a couple of home runs today. And Justin Smoke has had a huge spring. Lines went out of the ballpark to tie it at 2. That's where we stand. Our Cooney Lexus look back. Cooney Lexus opening up a brand new huge facility in Greenwood Village. Should be complete this spring. This is Jason Bay at the plate. Former Pirate, Red Sox, and things went not so well when he played for the Mets. And he comes to Seattle, much closer to where he grew up, very close, in fact, to where he grew up north of the border. And he's had a very strong spring.
He has. And he actually has a home just outside of Seattle. So he'll be living over, I believe it's Bellevue, somewhere in that area. And he was excited to get signed and come to camp, trying to make the club. And right now, everything is pretty much settled except for maybe Jason and Casper Wells are trying to figure out what to do there. And Casper, of course, people back home know who Casper is. He's out of options. So there's an issue there, and this thing will probably go right down to the wire. But Jason certainly has played well this spring.
And he strikes out right there. Let's take a look at, again, you mentioned the 25-man roster, close but not finalized. It will be obviously later today. And here are the candidates. And there's a good battle in the outfield. Casper Wells, Jason Bay. What's the bullpen look like?
The bullpen looks good, and then the familiar names out there. We've already seen Tom Wilhelmsen. That is in the game, of course, Pryor. Lowe is the new guy. Caps will probably be on the club. Those are the righties. Lowe potentially, and then of course you have Perez the lefty, Furbush the lefty, and then Lucas Lidke also another left-hander. So a nice mix for Eric Wedge to mix and match his bullpen for him, and some really good arms out there. Wilhelmsen, Pryor, and Caps all in the mid to upper 90s, and of course Oliver Perez also around 95 miles an hour from the left side.
I don't advise stopping a flying bat with one's shins generally.
No.
That's a kick save you don't want to make.
No, Jeff Datz, the third base coach, did a good job just getting out of the way of it. He wasn't going to mess around, but Morales, it's a pretty good throw by Morales. One of the few guys that doesn't wear batting gloves. A tough time hanging on to it.
2-strike count on Kendrys. Ground ball to third, the home run. And did he go? Nope, no swing. 1-2. Are you a batting glove guy?
Yes.
Both hands?
Yes.
Some guys, just like it on the bottom. Some guys, it depends on the day and the temperature and how many hits you've had of late.
That makes a difference. And Morales, you can see that he's used about a half a roll of tape on his fingers. He doesn't like to wear the batting gloves.
2-2. And 3-2. George Juan Nicasio worked in a AAA game yesterday, threw the ball very effectively in his final tune-up for his first start of the year.
Looking forward to see the consistent growth on the slider and the changeup. The fastball is definitely there.
This is the third walk issued this spring by Jeff Francis. So Morales behind 0-2 earns a trip to first with one out.
Trip to first and a trip to the dugout.
He's done.
Good day.
Yep.
He don't. He's out. Headed to the dugout.
Raul Ibanez getting a nice round of applause from the folks here in Salt Lake City. What a terrific career he's had. And good to see him back at Seattle.
And his third time back with the Mariners. And again, he was somebody that Eric Wedge wanted to try to get signed. Raul also has his home in the Seattle area. And I think more than anything, he just wanted to get some veterans. Last year, he played a lot of young kids. They all had an opportunity to play at the major league level, and he felt like he needed some guys, a presence. As you look at his spring, Raul's having a good spring with the 4 home runs, but a presence in the clubhouse, and Raul's right towards the top of that list when he knew he was available.
There's guys in the game, Mike, you know this, haven't played a long time. George, you played a long time. There are guys that have stature, not just on the field, but have great credibility in the clubhouse. And when you think of leaders who've been in the game a while, Raul Ibanez, as you said, right near the top of the list.
Well, he is. And I think the big thing with Raul also that Eric likes about him is he makes himself available to the young kids. And he's not afraid to go up to them and talk to them. I know he's worked with Kyle Seager a lot this spring. He was in talking baseball and working on his swing. Kyle had a great year last year for his first year. He led the club in home runs and RBIs, but Raul makes himself available, and he's willing to talk to him about certain things and situations and getting the job done and being a professional. And sometimes you can watch these guys, and Raul goes about his business the right way, and as a young player, you can learn some things.
You can learn an awful lot of things. Todd Helton, much like that in the last 4 or 5 years with guys, and what they've done with Todd is kind of the same way. But it's nice that Wedge has somebody like an Ibanez that he can lean on.
1-2 on Ibanez, 2-2. Kyle Seager's been replaced in the ball game. I really like Seager a lot, and his little brother's pretty good also.
That's what I understand. Yeah, first round pick with the Dodgers, and Kyle had a chance to spend some time with him during spring training this year.
That's neat for the family that both are in the Cactus League. And a swinging strike 3, so Ibanez is gone for Jeff Francis. That's his second strikeout. Both have come this inning. He got Bay to begin the inning. 2 outs.
Brad Miller getting a chance to hit.
Yeah, Brad Miller's one of your better prospects.
Yes, he is, and he's played well this spring also. And he's a kid that plays shortstop for the most part, but he's going to go to Double-A Jackson, it sounds like, and get a chance to play some more second base along with shortstop, primarily shortstop, but he will mix in some at second base and a little bit of third. He's had a good spring and shown that he can do a lot of different things to help you.
Hey, George, you know what Jeff looks like he has back even sharper than we saw last year? The big curveball.
Curveball with the command of being able to throw it a little bit harder, a little softer, locate it in, locate it out, shorten it up, meaning not as big a break. Well, more importantly to me, the velocity's back a little bit too. Last year he pitched 84 to 88 miles an hour. He's touched 90, 91 a couple of times this spring. The arm, once again, it feels almost back to normal for Jeff. Shoulder surgery is very difficult to come back for. So lots harder to come back off that. It takes longer to feel that full strength than it does off of Tommy John elbow surgery.
0-2. Well, speaking of shoulder surgery, and a guy that you got to know pretty well in the spring, and all of Major League Baseball knows him because of the great success he's had, but the Rockies now have John Garland, and he spent most of the spring with the Seattle Mariners. What were your thoughts on watching him?
I liked him. I thought he pitched well. He showed a good sinker, and one of the things that we were talking about earlier before the broadcast today was he had a game against the Netherlands when the Netherlands were playing well, and he gave up a few runs in that game. He had a hard time getting his fastball down. But for a veteran guy, I really didn't worry too much about that. He started ripping his slider off, and he ended up punching out about 8 or 9 guys in that game. And that told me that he was healthy and had a lot of confidence because he was letting it go.
This ball is ripped to right center field, a base hit, and then Sosa bobbles it, and everybody's going to move up 90 feet. And Brad Miller hanging in there left on left and really swinging the bat.
Again, he's no surprise that he was getting dirty right there either. He's a baseball player, and that's the way Eric Wedge describes him. And another base hit for him, but he's played well throughout the spring. Good defender, too. But always hustling and diving all over the place, which is what you want to see from the young guys. But he stays in there, as you mentioned, Drew, and hits this ball hard back up the middle. And as soon as he sees this little clank out in right field, he takes off for second, makes it easily as he dives in there. Long strider runs well.
Playing the game right. Gotta love it. Justin Smoak smoked a home run his last time up, and he takes low ball 1. Chance for Seattle to break back on top in a 2-2 ball game. Would assume this will be the final inning of work for Jeff Francis. Good pitch on Friday. Rockies home opener against the Padres. Brandon Maurer went 4 innings in his final tune-up. Here's the home run from Smoak. When he was coming up in the Rangers organization, they always talked about his big-time power, and it's been on display this spring.
And the Mariners have seen it at the major league level during the season. It's just been inconsistent, and I think that maybe this is his time. At least that's the hope, and he's had a great spring. That home run was his 5th home run of the spring. And he just looks a lot better, more confident at the plate.
Did it matter to you, Mike, when you were getting ready for a season, whether you hit 380 or 180 in the spring? I mean, you don't want to hit 180, I get that. But did you pay attention to results in the spring?
My first 2 years when I was trying to make the club, I did, you bet. But after that, I didn't. I went more on how I felt. Because once you go through it, you have an idea how to prepare yourself. And if you have the luxury of not having to hit 300 to make a team, that's a lot nicer way to go because you can work on something. Maybe you have a day where you just take a bunch of pitches, so the average isn't that important. But when you're younger, it means everything to you because you're trying to make the club. But I think for him, it's probably important just for confidence. And he's playing with a lot of it right now. So, again, there are different steps as you move through the season. And for Justin, he had 3 of them for me. And the first one was to have a good spring, which he's taken care of. The next one is to get off to at least a decent start. Don't bury yourself early. And then the third one is show some consistency throughout a 162-game schedule. So he has 2 more parts of it to go. As you take a look at his numbers from last year, even as much as he struggled, he still hit 19 home runs, and he was lost most of the year and working on things. So he looks a lot better here in spring.
Here's the 3-2. Look, George, like a backdoor cutter.
Well, that's something else he's worked on. You know, being able to do that. If you can bring it from the outside to that corner, you got a pretty good opportunity. And then all of a sudden you get a guy leaning, you run that cutter on the hands and just chop him up a little bit. Jeff's a pitcher. I mean, that's what he does. He's done that when he won 17 games in Double-A before the Rockies brought him to the big leagues.
Of course, the leader of that staff in 07, the World Series team. He won 17 in the regular season, 2 more in the postseason, and he gets smoked a little bit out front. And Sosa puts on the brakes and makes the catch. In the inning, there was a hit and a walk, 2 men left on. We'll go to the bottom of the 6th inning in a 2-2 ball game.
It's a present from your
Baseball on Root Sports is brought to you by Ford F-Series. Built stronger, built better, built Ford tough. By Taco Bell, sometimes you gotta live Moss. And by Sterling Bank, nobody works harder for you. Equal housing lender, member FDIC. Stunning Red Rocks of Utah. Great day for a bike ride. Even better for baseball. So we get you back to Drew, George, and Mike.
Angie, thank you. It is gorgeous, flat gorgeous today. Temperature hovering near 70 degrees. The veteran Oliver Perez is on the hill now for Seattle. Let's go to the Seattle dugout area. Jenny Cavnar with Kyle Seeger. Jenny.
Hey guys, thanks so much. Kyle, your first full season last year with the big leagues with Seattle. When you look back to last year, what did you learn about yourself and carry into these last 6 weeks that you can take into a brand new year?
There's a lot to be learned. Getting the experience of the first full year. Getting to see what the grind is every day. But I think you learn a lot about yourself. I learned a lot about my swing. Just pretty much all aspects of the game.
You led the team last year in home runs with 20 knocks. This spring, the Mariners have had 58 home runs during spring training. Do you sense you might have a little competition on the team this year?
I don't think I'm necessarily the front runner in that department. You got some. We brought in a lot of guys that have a lot of pop, and some big guys that have hit in the middle of the order for a long time. So it's been a lot of fun to be around those guys and to learn from them.
Yeah, the guys upstairs were talking about Raul Ibanez and what he's been able to do and help you in mentoring. What's your relationship been like with him as we're getting pelted with gum down here? I'll dodge you.
Yeah, Raul is awesome. He's they told me when I was up at Fan Fest that he was such an awesome guy. And just getting the opportunity to be around him all the time, he's the best.
Little sunflower seed shower down here, no big deal. That's what happens when you're the younger guy on a team that's now mixed a little bit. There's some youth, there's some veterans on this team. What do you like about the chemistry and the makeup as you guys head in to the opener on Monday?
Well, good bunch of guys. Everybody that's not throwing sunflower seeds at me right now is awesome. It's a great mix. There's no egos. It's been a lot of fun to be a part of it.
I'm taking names, and I'll have Brad Adam make sure that he gets them back when you guys start the regular season. How does that sound?
I have him to be watching this and let me know who it was.
All right, you got it, Kyle. Thanks so much for your time. Guys, we'll send it back up to you.
They're not throwing any at you, though, Jenny.
I know. They're being nice to me, but that's just because they don't know me. I'm sure they would pelt me as well.
This ball's hit fairly well to right field, right near the warning track. It's hauled in, so Jordan Rivera is gone. 2 outs. Boy, Oliver Perez, who had an up-and-down career as a starter, and then late in his career with the Mets, he couldn't throw strikes. Really couldn't throw strikes. Now he's become a staple in your bullpen. You called him up last year, and he put up terrific numbers.
And he was surprising when he came up last year. I didn't know what to expect since he's been a starter throughout his career, but his first outing, you could see an aggressiveness about him, and his fastball was 95 miles an hour going right after hitters, and just a different frame of mind. And it just seems that he's fallen into that role of being a guy that can pitch. Basically a setup guy if you need him, but he'll pitch in the 7th inning more times than not. But it's another power arm for the Mariners from the left side out in their bullpen. But just a different looking pitcher altogether.
I'll say this too. I think it was very unfair to him that when he did come up with San Diego, that they made him out with the Fernando Mania and all that, and it was just an awful lot heaped on a young kid, and maybe got into the head a little bit that I need to work a little harder and get back when it got taken away. But obviously, he's responded very well.
That was a dominant inning. We'll go to the 7th, tied at 2.
Welcome to
Time for the Sterling Bank Nobody Works Harder, brought to you by Sterling Bank, Equal Housing Lender, member FDIC. Brandon Maurer went 4 innings in his final tune-up for the regular season. He'll be the 4th starter for Seattle initially. Gave up a couple of runs, a couple of home runs. Tulowitzki and Todd Helton, other than that, pretty sound. And struck out 2 of the final 3 that he would face. Good outing for Brandon Maurer. That's Josh Sullivan. He's now out there in relief of Jeff Francis. George, good outing for Francis.
Yeah, really good outing for Francis. 6 innings. I mean, he comes into this ball game. It's a 2-2 game. He ends up giving up 5 hits in the game, even though a couple of them left the yard. Josh Sullivan in spring training didn't give it up a run. This is his 4th game to appear in. Really didn't get an awful lot of work. Heavy sinker, 92-95. Shared the closing duty last year with the Cody Woods, who went over to Rule 5 pick.
Pitchers, 85% of them. That's an official stat. Mike's grinning. He knows where I'm going with this. 85%. Can throw the ball 95 miles an hour to the plate. Can't throw it 50 feet to first base.
No, it's amazing. We want to test out the fielding skills of every first baseman in baseball.
We watched it.
I mean, you get extra bonus points for this when you throw it over. It's like it gets right there and you go, oh, no. Did I really just do that? Yeah.
As George likes to say, he gets the faheeps.
Like he gets the faheeps right about halfway through that arm action. Yeah, it's like the golfer that gets there and all of a sudden the putter just starts like, oh, I really don't want to do this.
We get that's called the Barkley.
Yeah.
Athley getting a 3rd at bat, ground ball to 1st, ground ball to 2nd.
I think one thing for Josh, he battled so many different things, talking about Sullivan, that went through so many different injuries in the elbow, the shoulder. 3 years of battling back and forth, was on a fast rise, came out of Auburn as a 4th pick in the draft, and really good velocity. And finally all started to come back together for him last year at Tulsa. He'll start the season in Colorado Springs as the closer, along with Cody Woods, who mentioned earlier, came back from the Rangers.
Pretty live arm.
Well, it is. I mean, the ball moves an awful lot. Obviously, much more effective when he's down in the strike zone. Last year was the first year for him to work out of the bullpen consistently at Double-A. Second half of the season, you saw some wildness flare up. But he can throw the ball by some people. The tapper for 1 out. Some high heat for the 2nd out. It's like good kids. Stuff like this to happen to kids like Josh Sullivan. I mean, even though he's 28 years old, you know, he's still, first time he's ever pitched in AAA. It's been a situation, a long battle for him. And nice to see him get rewarded. Hopefully he can get to the big leagues at some point.
2 outs, Robert Andino's 1st at bat. Came in for Brendan Ryan.
Andino will be the utility infielder for the Mariners. And he'll play all the infield spots. I think he'll probably give Kyle Seager and Dustin Ackley a day off when they face the tough left-hander from time to time.
Where's Sean Figgins now?
He was just released from the Marlins
4 days ago. They whacked him.
One of those guys, you look around baseball and you say, what happened?
Yeah, he was such a big part of the success the Angels were having, and things just didn't work out for him in Seattle.
One and 2 on Andino. Strike 3. That's nasty right there. That's a strong inning for Josh Sullivan. Stretch time in Salt Lake City. Rapidly moving ball game. 2-2. The Mariners and Rockies tied up.
Final
stretching in Salt Lake City, where we are tied in the 7th inning. Angie Mentink telling you it is the game Mariners fans of all ages look forward to each season. It's opening night, and it's set for Monday, April 8th. Join us for a live performance by Pickwick, plus fireworks, Mariners red carpet introductions, and Mariners all-time winningest pitcher Jamie Moyer will throw out the ceremonial first pitch. Get tickets to opening night at mariners.com. Back to Drew now in Salt Lake.
All right, Angie, thank you very much. 2-2 as we go to the bottom of the 7th inning. New pitcher for the Seattle Mariners, one of their setup men, 23-year-old Stephen Pryor on the hill, who throws really hard.
Yeah, he'll be in the mid-90s at times, upper 90s. We saw that last year from him. Also has a hard slider and a split. And you're absolutely right. He'll be another hard-throwing right-hander out of the bullpen for the Mariners. Came on last year. Amazing when you think of him and Carter Capps. A number of the guys that were in Double-A last year made their way to the big leagues and pitched well, and you can see he's having a fine spring training. 10 innings for him, 11 strikeouts, only 3 walks.
Guys have developed some pitching with later round guys, and he's a 5th round pick. And in baseball terms, again, 5th round, it's not 1st round. There's a big difference, and so for him to get to the big leagues as quickly as he has, scouts did a nice job.
Well, Jack Zduriencik is one of the things that he wanted to do when he came over to the Mariners, and that was to rebuild the farm system, and he did it basically by starting with pitching. And Steven is an example of that. A lot of pitching depth in the organization. Jack Zduriencik again doing a great job of that. Now we're starting to see the position players coming along.
Yeah, Jack was a former scouting director.
Right.
For all those great years that he was in Milwaukee, it helped build their organization what it is.
This is Matt McBride, 0-2. Torey Alba caught a couple innings, and then Jordan Pacheco moved from left field to behind the plate. Walt Weiss was talking before the ball game about the utilization of some guys on his bench, and a guy that he's got to get at bats for, in addition to Eric Young, is Jordan Pacheco. Torey Alba now going down to the bullpen. Pacheco was 5th in the National League in hitting last year, qualified 5th. It wasn't like he hit
500 at bats, hit 306,
309,
309. Led all rookies.
And he's not a starter.
Well, how is it a problem? I was going to say, how is it a problem trying to find at bats for him?
He's not starting.
He could not start. Third base, Chris Nelson's going to start. First base, you got 17. Behind the plate, where he can play a little bit, you got Rosario. So that's an interesting dilemma, huh? What'd you do last year? I was 5th in the league in hitting. Oh, really? Where are you playing this year? Well, I'm going to come off the bench. McBride lines to left, 1 out. Opening day almost here. Tune in to Root Sports on Monday as the Rockies take on the Brewers at 11 a.m. Mountain in the Rocky Mountain region. And then later on in the evening, the Mariners take on the Athletics from Oakland beginning at 6:30 Pacific time in the Northwest. Don't miss your favorite teams as they open up the 2013 campaign right here on Root Sports. I was kidding your partner, Sims. He's standing out there. He's completely wiped out the buffet.
What else is he going to do? What else is he going to do today?
Cookie side of it. I went out, no more oatmeal, no more sugar, nothing. Gone.
He's fueling up for opening day that you were just mentioning, Drew.
And he had a brand new fedora on. Imagine that.
Imagine that. Be curious to see which one he breaks out for opening day on Monday.
Dave was keeping his eyes, we all have, on the tournament. One eye on the tournament, one eye on this ball game. 2-strike count on Charlie Culberson. Charlie in the Pacific Coast League last year in the Giants organization, so he's very familiar with this yard. Gave it really high marks defensively. He was asking infielders naturally what they think of the infield in various ballparks. He said it's a fast surface, but it's a really good surface. Works underneath here, and in foul ground, Brad Miller should have a play, and he does.
I think you'll find most AAA ballparks, even AA now, they're in pretty good shape. You know, their fan base is good. They're mostly brand new ballparks. I know Tulsa, the AA club's only 4 or 5 years old in that ballpark. It's a very good playing surface. Tacoma's been around a little while, but they've rebuilt things up there. I mean, it's a very nice ballpark.
I think in your home state, George, Oklahoma City has pretty good ballpark.
The Bricktown's really good. I mean, it's where the Houston Astros are now. The Texas Rangers there for years, and then Nolan moved Texas to Round Rock.
This is Tim Smalley. And Raul Ibanez can still catch a fly ball. How about that? 1-2-3 inning for Stephen Pryor. Go to the 8th, tied at 2. Matt Belisle's warming up, and as he warms up, Rex Brothers is actually on the bump, getting ready to throw to the Seattle Mariners here, top of their order. Andy Chavez. Second at bat for Andy, grounded to second against Jeff Francis. Francis went 6 innings, gave up a couple of runs on 5 hits, walked 1, struck out 2. Rex this spring has worked 9 innings. He has punched out 14, giving up just 1 run. So he is ready to go.
Worked out on his delivery, trying to smooth the front side so he can have consistent release and extension. And it has worked.
And Chavez tries to bunt his way on again, 0-2. Guy this nasty, left on left, throwing off the first base side. May try to bunt with an 0-2 count. Doubt it. Swings at a slider in the dirt. Pacheco chases him down, 1 out. We haven't looked at the Rockies' 25-man roster. You mentioned that Seattle's not quite finalized yet. The Rockies roster is. It'll be Cargo and Fowler, obviously, along with Michael Kadire, Eric Young Jr., and then the infield is where there's a surprise. Jonathan Herrera, who the Rockies adore, had an option left. He was not sent out. A guy who hit 290 with 17 home runs last year, who struggled in the spring. Tyler Colvin was. So the Rockies, off their bench, will have the great speed of EY, Reed Brignac. They'll have the aforementioned Herrera, Torey Alba, and of course Jordan Pacheco. Thoughts on that, George?
Well, I thought maybe that Colvin might get a month out there after going 19 and 75 and drove in 75 runs to go along with the 271 average, but really struggled in spring training. He struck out an awful lot. His average was about 160, 171. So, I mean, it was a deal to go to AAA, get fixed, and get back up here and help us with because it's so versatile. He can play all three outfield positions, play first. Johnny can play anywhere in the infield.
.30 pitch misses, ball 4 on Jason Bay. One thing to point out about opening day rosters, and Walt Weiss wanted to give him 2 hitters.
Two hitters
out of there.
Belisle's been warming up down in the bullpen. Bring him in a situation. Maybe it's kind of the way the season's going to operate. Matt, come in, try to work out of this. One out, get a double play, and get out of here.
Dodge is having their showcase.
Welcome back to Salt Lake City. Matt Belisle in for the Colorado Rockies in the top of the 8th with an out. And of course, someone that knows him very well is one of his catchers in Yorby Torrealba, making the Rockies this year. How's it been to just be back in purple and back in a familiar zone and with some familiar pitchers that you've caught before?
Well, it's been great. It was a hard competition between me and Ramon. Come down to almost the last day of the spring training, and I'm glad, I made the team. I'm glad to be back in Colorado. I mean, this is my really good memories in here. My best year or something in the big league wasn't here with the Rockies. So
I think Ramon put it best. It's a healthy competition because you guys have been friends for so long. You tend to make each other better, he said. And he knew really for both of you that you would end up somewhere, whether it was with the Rockies or with another team, as he felt the same for him. Did you feel that way with your relationship and it was able to kind of give you guys that healthy back and forth?
Yes, definitely. I know I say competition, but we don't really take it like a competition. I mean, we're really good friends. I mean, on the field and off the field. I mean, in the off season we hang out, we play dominoes. I mean, we go and visiting each other. I mean, it was kind of uncomfortable to see him leave, but I'm sure he probably felt the same way if I'm the one had to leave. So, but it's over with. We got to move on. I'm wishing the best luck, and then hopefully we find something soon.
Of course, for longtime Rockies fans, they've seen you in Rockies uniform from 06 to 09 in the World Series games in 07. They know you bring that energy, but part of your job also this year will really be to help progress Wilin Rosario. What have you seen with him, and how has your relationship with him developed over the course of the last 6-7 weeks?
So far, so good. I mean, what an unbelievable, talented young player. I mean, offensively, he showed already what he can do. We're working, behind the play. I think he's getting better. He's getting more comfortable. I think last year was definitely a horrible year, as an organization, as for him behind the play. I mean, everybody I think have a bad year. But it's in the past, and then this year he started to feel comfortable back there. And then I'm just trying to help him as much as I can. I'm saying he's doing way better this year so far. I'm blocking balls, calling games. I think he's going to be just fine.
You've been known to have a jig or two. I've seen you dance around a little bit, right? You got anything new? Any new material for the 2013 season?
I'm getting older, so I don't think I got anything. It's still the same, probably. I just try to go out there and have fun. And then you will see me dance, a few times, but it's all about having fun. And try to, go out there, have fun, and win.
Always fun and always bringing that energy. Thanks so much for joining us here. You guys, we'll send it back to you.
All right, Jenny, thank you very much. And Mike, I know you played with these guys. George did, especially when you talk about a guy behind the plate. When the Rockies have had great success, Roby Torrealba's been their catcher, 07 and 09, and he brings everybody loves him in the clubhouse, but he brings an edge to him and kind of a panache to playing the game. And even though he's not going to be out there, 5 days a week, just a couple days a week, he adds something this club needs.
Well, he does, and I was able to see that type of impact when he was with the Rangers.
Mike Zunino with the base hit.
Well, he's a fiery guy, too.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not afraid to come out and get after you on the mound and pat you on the back at the same time and try to get your attention the best they can.
He plays with great passion. Raul Ibanez to face Matt Bilal. First and third, 1 out.
It was a nice solid base hit by Mike Zunino, the future catcher of the Mariners, first round pick. Also had a good spring, but he'll be sent out, get a chance to play a little bit more in the minor leagues, and it's good to see him here today. Get a base hit. He's hit some long home runs this spring too.
Well thought of.
Yes.
Top selection of the Mariners. Ibanez takes a strike with a fastball. Jordan Pacheco gonna have to fill up that toolbox of gloves. He's got his third baseman glove. He's got his first baseman's glove. He's got his catcher's glove. And now he's got to get the long one playing the outfield.
And that's amazing that he was able to hit the way that he did. And you guys were describing it earlier. And the fact that he plays all those different positions so many times, a guy that has to carry all of those gloves offensively, they struggle a little bit just because they're unsettled, because they never know where they're going to be and where they're going to be, what they're going to be doing. But it sounds like it doesn't bother him at all.
No, he can hit. He's hit at every level.
And he's a pretty good catcher. I think some people don't look at him from that respect, but he is. In college, was a middle infielder. He was a very athletic kid. After 1 year of playing short and second at rookie ball, they said, we're going to make you a catcher. And he was like, really? And he went back, grabbed it, played at the AA level. High A as a catcher. But he plays hitter really well.
And they'll test the arm to Sosa, and it's way offline. So the sac fly off the bat of Raul Ibanez plays Jason Bay. And the Mariners here in the 8th inning take a 3-2 lead.
Well, a little bit of what you see in development here. And Sosa's catching a high fly ball in left field, and when he caught it, Mike, it was behind his head. So now you don't have that running start to make a really strong throw into the plate area. It's coming over onto the baseball a little unorthodox. See, totally off balance instead of getting there in a position, and that all comes with fundamentals and growing as an outfielder and knowing not just catching the ball, but now you got a secondary part of that play you got to make.
And that will be addressed, I'm sure, when he comes in off of the field. They'll talk to him about that. But also, it's another reason why when you see a fly ball like that, it's a good read by the guy at third trying to make a decision whether he's going to tag, because it really wasn't that deep. But the minute you see the outfielder standing flat-footed, you have to test the arm.
You have to.
Brad Miller, he just keeps spraying line drives all over, and that was misjudged
it's
by
finding
Sosa.
Me. It's finding me. Leave me alone.
Zunino is going to score easily. Probably got to score that double, no leather. And a run-scoring double from Brad Miller makes it 4-2. I'm a bit impressed. I know it's 2 ABs, but this kid can swing it.
Well, I've said it many times this spring. I had a chance to see him a little bit last year in spring training right after he had signed. But this spring, he's really come into his own. And again, talking to Eric Wedge about him today, he really likes him a lot. And we've seen a bunch of this in the spring. Gets a fastball in the middle of the plate and hits it hard. This is lined out to left field. It is misplayed, but still a line drive off the bat of Miller. And he's going to be a good one.
Boy, after one play, doesn't it just seem like it seeks you out?
Oh, it will.
It'll find you.
It will.
And it's not fun either.
What's Smoke do wrong, by the way?
What did he do wrong?
To get to play 9 innings?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe he wanted a couple of extra at-bats. See if he can get his average up to an even 500.
Listen, he did the Ted Williams thing already. It's not going to dip below 400.
Or Eric looked around and said, hey, who forgot to bring the other first baseman?
Right. Or just
Smokey, go ahead. You got the whole game.
Yeah, there you go.
You're not running much. You're at first. Don't worry about it.
He wasn't going to put Morales out there today, I can tell you that.
Yeah. No. Well, not what Matt Belisle wanted either. To turn with one out and a runner on first, turn this into a 15-20 pitch, 2/3 of an inning for him. Rafael Betancourt has been thrown down in the Rockies bullpen. He'll pitch the 9th.
George, we have an issue.
Yes, sir. Your issue is?
Well, the Rockies brought a lot of extra bodies today, and they have a long list of pitchers.
That's Matt Belisle. I know that.
Yeah, no, I know. 96 is warming up, and he's not listed. It's played by Johnny Herrera. That'll end the inning. Couple runs for Seattle. They take a 4-2 advantage to the bottom of the 8th inning in Salt Lake City.
Mariners and Rockies in Salt Lake City as we head to the bottom of the 8th. Mariners with a 2-run lead. Well, the Colorado Rockies established a Make an Impact program back in 2005, and a big backer of that program happened to make the trip to Utah to make some kids very happy. Of course, I'm talking about Dinger. Who else would it have been? He showed up at 2 different schools here in the Salt Lake City area. Each school had about 600 kids. This one at North Alpine Elementary School. And Dinger wanted to get all of the Make an Impact points across. Let's stay in school, refuse drugs, get involved, and of course respect. Make an impact in your life and others. That's what the kids are learning via the Rockies. Guys?
George, fortunately it was a cool day, because you would have lost about 10 lbs in that costume all day, huh?
After I would get in it.
Listen, I've never seen you and Dinger in the same place, and Dinger's about your height. I'm just saying.
You might, well, you know what? You never know.
Hernan Iribarren, he's been in the Rockies organization last few years. This is a guy that may have maybe a coach down the road. A cerebral guy. He's versatile too. Play the infield, play the outfield. New pitcher's Danny Barquar. What kind of springs he had?
He's had a solid spring. He'll end up pitching in Tacoma. How about this year? This is his year last year. Started off in New Hampshire, went to Sacramento, went to Trenton, went to Scranton, and eventually to Tacoma. That's packing that suitcase a lot, isn't it?
That's a lot of miles.
That's a lot of miles. That's unsettling, I think, for anybody, but he handled it well. Danny will end up pitching in Tacoma. Some depth for the Mariners down there. If somebody gets hurt or they need somebody out of the pen. Throws strikes, not overpowering.
prospect for the Rockies we haven't talked about, a power arm that may end up in the bullpen, George. He's been a starting pitcher and he's returning to good health, and he's had a strong spring. Chad Bettis looks like he'll start in Tulsa.
He'll be a starting pitcher in Tulsa. That's where he'll start the year out. You know, the only concern I ever have with that, and I know it kind of protected innings, but a guy that coming off of a shoulder injury and missing an entire year, the workload, and I mean, it's just my own theory that if you start mounting up 100 pitches at a time on a guy every 5th day, you don't know what's going to happen to the shoulder versus pitching him every 3 days, an inning at a time, and let it build up. He's got an opportunity. He's got the mental attitude to be one heck of a closer at the big league level. Closed at Texas Tech. For me, Bettis does. And he's got that attitude to do that, but he's going to start in Tulsa to start the year and get his arm going, see how it works. Had a great spring.
This is Candelas, second at bat for David Candelas. Watch him throw a bullpen, and we always talk about the ball making a different sound when certain guys swing the bat, guys like Carlos Gonzalez. Well, when the ball comes out of his hand to home plate with Chad Bettis, it looks different going to home plate. It gets there really quick.
Yeah, he was up before he got hurt shoulder out in Cal League. He was up to 98, and that was in the 7th and 8th inning. I mean, he held his velocity really well. This spring he's been 92, 96 again, so you just feel like it's going to jump right out there again. He's got a good hard slider to go along with the fastball. Decent changeup.
And Candelas draws a walk.
It was this time last year, spring training. Similar thing. We were watching the ball game, and I'm hearing something, and I look down into the bullpen for the Mariners to see there's some kid wearing 96 down there. And I looked at Dave Sims, and I said, I don't know who that is, but he's throwing harder than anybody we've seen all spring. It turns out it was Carter Capps, and he throws 100 miles an hour. He started off in Double-A Jackson. Now he's part of the bullpen here.
Sosa punches a single through the right side. Now the Rockies have the tying run aboard here in the bottom of the 8th inning. That'll bring up Jordan Pacheco. I remember the first time seeing live Aroldis Chapman throw, and that's different.
Jerry Walker, their assistant general manager, special assistant to Walt. Before they brought Chapman up, he said he sent Jerry down to watch, and he's warming up, and they had the situation set up coming out of the bullpen. He'd been starting. He said, you know, when he comes in, make sure you get everything for me, how he warms up, the whole deal. And Jerry, who was my pitching coach of the Yankees, is sitting behind home plate, and he comes in for his very first bullpen, first pitch, 103 in warm-ups. And Jerry just goes, he's ready. That's all he said. He's ready. The first one was 103 in warm-ups, and that's the night he had 105 in AAA that night.
I've never seen him pitch live.
It's pretty interesting. The Rockies have gotten after him a couple of times, but not any. Yeah, I mean, when I say get after him, couple base hits, give up a run, but he can. The thing is, he's got more than just the fastball.
He's got a slider, but they moved back to the pen.
Yeah, I think that's a smart move.
How would you like to stand in on the left side?
Well, that's the point. Why would you want to take that out of your 9th inning 50 times and save 50 games for it?
Pacheco fouls it off. He buzzes the tower. Might just flip around, do the old Larry Walker in the All-Star game, flip the helmet around and get in there on the right side. What a great opening series. The Angels and the Reds. Those are two talented teams that, with now the Astros going to the American League, there's an even balance. You'll see interleague play throughout the season. That'll be a little different, huh?
It will be. I'll be curious to see what kind of start Josh Hamilton gets off to. Pujols last year started off slow in the first month of the season for the Angels.
2 outs as Farquhar strikes out Jordan Pacheco.
Again, Danny not overpowering. We'll mix it up. This is a good breaking ball in the middle of the plate, but change of speed gets Pacheco out in front of it.
Jordan Rivera been in the game for a few innings at first base. Todd Helton long double to left center field off the top of the wall, and then he went over the left field wall with a solo home run. Todd finished his spring 7 for his final 7. Candelas at second. Francisco Sosa is at first base. 2 outs, 4-2 Seattle in the 8th. And this is going to drop. 1 run has come around. Sosa goes to third. It's 4-3 on the opposite field knock for Rivera.
Well, take what you can get. Dump it where they're not playing. It's exactly what happened to this. Left-handed batter up. You're going to take that sinker and run it away. Big swing off the end of the bat. You see Ibanez playing very deep. No doubles over the backside of the head. This ball drops in front. The run gets in.
Johnny Herrera, fly ball center field, his first time up. Tying run at third base. Strike 1 for Farquhar. Probably heard this late last year a lot, Flo, and that is when you see Seattle and you don't see Ichiro, it's a little strange. Obviously, we don't see Seattle that much. Take a while for you to get used to it.
It was, it was. Now I'm fine with it. I think the guys are past all of that too. But initially, well, first of all, the trade was surprising. I don't think anybody expected it. But it took a little bit of time, but I think it was the perfect time to make that move. But it was such a young team, and they wanted to get playing time for some more of the young guys, and it just was a situation where I think it was time for Ichiro, who was getting up there, also get him in a situation where he had a chance to get into the postseason. But it was a bit strange at first, and then surprising to a lot of people, including his teammates. But they're well past that now.
This is lobbed into shallow left field, and Ibanez comes on. Is that Ibanez? Is that Raul still?
Yes.
Yep, that's Raul still. Comes on and makes a nice catch to preserve a 1-run lead for Seattle. He had to get a good jump on it.
Every year.
Eric Young takes off, and he's out at second base. This is John. 4 solo home runs. Gorgeous Wasatch Mountain Range here in Salt Lake City. The Mariners, as we go to the top of the 9th inning, enjoying a 4-3 lead over the Colorado Rockies. Final spring training ball game for both clubs. For the Mariners, they're off to Oakland. They'll begin the season there with a 4-game set against the surprising defending NL West champion Oakland A's. The Rockies will be in Milwaukee for a 3-game set. Thursday will be an off day, and then they'll be home to the Padres on Friday. Kelly Shopik will lead off here in the 9th inning. Mike against Rafael Betancourt. Used to see Betancourt in his days in the American League.
Sure did. Take a look at his spring numbers. 5 2/3 for him. Given up a few hits, but 9 strikeouts. Hasn't walked anybody. And from what I remember of him, he typically will just sit there and dot the outside corner all day on you.
He'll sit there at 92 and 93 occasionally. And now he's mixing in a breaking ball more than he did when he was with the Indians. But you're right. He can hit the head of a pin from 60 feet 6 inches. He doesn't walk anybody.
No.
And he strikes out typically a little bit better than a hitter an inning. 1-1 on Shopik. Shopik puts a charge in this one, but it's going to turn foul.
You had to think a little bit, didn't you? American League West champion, Oakland Athletics.
It's just isn't that weird? I mean, with the with the Rangers being the 2-time pennant-winning Rangers going into the season, the Angels, with all they did in the offseason, C.J. Wilson, not to mention, of course, the aforementioned Albert Pujols, and it's the A's. That has to
a lot of people had the Mariners going last year at the start of the season. The Mariners being ahead of the A's. They had the A's coming in last. They ended up winning the West.
You know, it's a beautiful thing about baseball. It has a lot of times little to do with how much money you spend, and that also because listen, Seattle's had a really good spring, and I've seen him a couple times now this spring. You're going to be better offensively, clearly. Love the bullpen. You have one of the few aces, true aces in the game in King Felix. I'm sure up there in the Pacific Northwest they're thinking, well, why can't this be our year to surprise?
Well, I hope so. I hope that's the case, because why can't it be? They definitely made some improvements, and we've seen it this spring. Now that has to translate to the season, but the one thing I know they can do is they can pitch and they can catch it. A little more offense would help.
No question. So a hitter for Rafael Betancourt. He strikes out his man. We'll come back. 4-3 ball game. Mariners on top. Wilton Lopez is in the ball game. Dustin Ackley at the plate. He lofts one to center field. David Candelas makes the catch. 2 outs.
Well, Lopez, pretty good spring this year. Last year did a very nice job for the Houston Astros coming out of the bullpen. Started out as a setup man, ended up with 10 saves at the big league level on a bad ball club, the Houston Astros. So they're looking for him to kind of help take some of the pressure off Matt Belisle, Rex brothers, be able to come in and pitch those innings. The latter part, no walks in his 9+ innings in spring training through 9 games.
George, you had stepped away for a moment. Mike and I were just talking about Rafael Betancourt. Mike knows him well from his days in Cleveland. A lot of similarities because Wilton Lopez does not walk anybody either. Just like
and puts the ball on the ground too.
Yeah,
it's a nice combination.
We'll go to the bottom of the 9th inning. The Rockies trying to rally against Seattle, down a run.
Hey, welcome to Toy.
Four-3 score, Seattle leading as we go to the final frame of the 9th inning. And
former Mariner Brian Sweeney.
Yeah, Brian Sweeney is on the hill for the Rockies. Looking down at their lineup, the Rockies will have Matt McBride, Charlie Culberson, and I believe Tim Smalling.
Brian was in minor league camp with the Mariners, and they invited him on the trip, give him a chance to pitch an inning, which is what he's going to try to do here, close this one out.
Well, the NL West, the AL West, going to be very interesting. Talk a little bit about the American League West, the National League West. Now you have the Dodgers spending money like the Yankees typically have. The Angels, great competition in that LA market. Who's going to spend more money and bring in more big names? The Giants have won 2 of the last 3 World Series. Padres always play well at home where it's tough to score. I think Arizona is kind of a below the radar team in the National League West, and then obviously the expectations for the Rockies nationally are very, very low, which I think some of the players have embraced. As long as that season is, Mike, as a player, because you do have to play them one at a time, and you realize, again, from a player's perspective, it's a marathon. Did it give you added motivation, if you needed any, that people around the country, the so-called experts, felt you weren't going to be good in the years that was the case?
I never really gave it much thought.
Nice play at third base by Miller.
I think for the players that you have a pretty good idea of what type of club you're going to have. As you take a look at this line drive hit right at Brad Miller. Again, normally a shortstop getting a chance to play some third, but it's a pretty good first step, able to snag it. But I don't really worry about it too much. I don't think that the players look at it as being disrespected. Look, at some point, if that's the label you're getting, it's because you've had your own struggles, and you have to do it yourself. You have to go out and win some ball games. But I can tell you this. Typically, those teams that are in that situation, you reel off some wins and you start to gain some confidence and momentum. As we were talking about the A's, things can turn around quickly. Yeah, the Baltimore Orioles in the American League last year also. Nobody had any expectations for them.
And if you look back historically, every year since there's been a wild card, now there's 2 of them, there is a team that makes the postseason that back in March nobody thought they'd be any good at all. Every year there's at least one team that ends up going to the postseason that nobody earmarked for even mediocrity a lot of times.
No, that's a great point. And as a player, if you feel like you have some sort of chance, then you were talking about the position players especially, you show up every day and you bust your tail and you hope that at the end of the year you just have an opportunity to get in, because anything can happen once you're in there. And with that extra wild card spot, You should feel that way. Give yourself a shot.
That's off the corner, ball 4. So Charlie Culberson goes to first base with 1 out, representing the tying run. Second and back coming for Tim Smalling. That's a strike. Culberson, pretty good speed at first base. Outside. A reminder, fans in the Northwest region, stay tuned for a preview of the Timbers Rapids soccer match coming up at the top of the hour. And for those of you in the Rocky Mountain region, stay tuned for a wrap of this final Cactus League ball game here in Salt Lake City between the Rockies and Mariners. Culberson stretching that lead out. 4 runs, 7 hits, a couple of errors for Seattle. 3 runs, 7 hits, and an error for Colorado. 4 solo home runs in this ball game. Morales and Smoke for the Mariners. Tulowitzki and Helt for the Rockies. 1-2. Looking around the ballpark, nobody's left.
Pretty nice crowd. They stuck it out. Sold out. They put them out in January. They hoped to sell some more in February, March. Sold out within 2 hours. How about that?
Pulled the string. Yeah, that's something. Brian Sweeney with a nice pitch to get Smalling. 2 outs.
It's good breaking ball from Brian. He will change speeds. That's actually a changeup. Really good changeup from Brian. Again, he'll be in Tacoma.
You got to love the game. I just counted up. He's pitched in about 75 big league games. Japan for 3 years.
Yep.
38 years old. Getting one more taste of it. I mean, he got there. He pitched 3 years in Japan. Won 12 games 1 year.
Hernan Iribarren at the plate.
Probably made some pretty good money in Japan too.
If he was there for more than 1, he probably did. You're right.
Yeah, he said knuckle curve. That's the grip. They go ahead and preset it. We see so much with the split fingers, sometimes change-up grips, the knuckleball, but first time in a knuckle curve preset grip where he puts that index finger in a seam to get that tight rotation down. A little high. Corey Blazer with 1 out, 2 outs, thinking better swing, boys.
Matt McBride, Dante Bichette chatting behind Iribarren at the plate. 1-1 count. Culberson at first. 4-3 Seattle. 2 outs in the 9th. Mariners will close out the spring with the 2nd most wins of all teams in Major League Baseball. The only team that won more games this spring, the Kansas City Royals. Here's the 1-2. Close. 2-2.
Did he just call that like almost chest high outside a strike? Yeah, I see why. A little bit inside. Charlie thought it was over. He was headed to the yard. I love getting on umpires. You notice that?
I have noticed
fun.
that.
It's just fun.
Some things never change.
Well, it's just fun. Bark at him a little bit. Can't hear me. Can't throw me out either.
Change up on the ground toward the hole. Ackley stops it, fires to first. Pickup made. Out at first base. Nicely done by Dustin Ackley to end the ball game, and the Mariners hang on and win it 4-3. A couple of sparkling plays by Dustin Ackley in the ball game defensively.
We saw Ackley going to his left earlier in the game. It looked like this was going to make it into right field. He doesn't hang on to it, but throws from his knee, and then a fine play, not an easy play by Justin Smoak at first base to corral it.
Terrific on both ends. So Seattle wins it 4-3. For Seattle, it is on to Oakland to begin the 2013 season. And for the Colorado Rockies, they'll board the plane and head to Milwaukee for a 3-game set against the Brew Crew. Today's delivery of the game is brought to you by Jimmy John's, America's favorite sandwich delivery guys. 4 long balls in the game, 2 for each team. And we take a look. Justin Smoak and Kendry Morales. This is Morales' home run. And then Tulowitzki would tie it with a long bomb to left center field. Rockies would take the lead later in the inning, an opposite field home run for Todd Helton. And then Justin Smoak an inning later would tie it up with that laser to left. Visit JimmyJohns.com to find a location near you, our Jimmy John's delivery of the game. Let's go field level and go to Jenny Cavnar. Jenny, what do you have?
Hey guys, standing by with Walt Weiss as we wrap up spring with this tune-up here. How do you feel going into the regular season and opening on Monday in Milwaukee?
Yeah, we're ready to go. I think our guys are in a good place right now. Swinging the bats well. I think we I don't know if we peaked, but I know we were playing well down the stretch here in spring training. That's all you want to do. And we got our work in today. Guys got a couple of bats, and Jeff got his work in. So it's time to go.
I think somebody that stands out heading into the season opener, Todd Helton with 7 consecutive hits. Is this a guy that's back and healthy and ready to go for what could be his last season? What could be the start of the end of a great career?
Yeah, Todd looks great. Looks like the Todd of old. No, heck, he might go out, hit 320, and play for another 5 years. Who knows? But Todd's in a real good place right now. I think he's one of those guys that's peaking at the right time.
I'll let you go, but before I do, Salt Lake City, great atmosphere, great fans today. What did you think of the overall experience here?
Yeah, it was a great crowd. They're really into the game, and a beautiful setting here at Salt Lake. It's a good day.
All right, well, thanks so much for your time. Drew, we'll send it back to you guys.
All right, Jenny, thank you very much. Again, the final score, Seattle wins it 4-3. Fans in the Northwest, we're going to send you to a preview of the Timbers Rapids match coming up at the top of the hour. For those in the Rocky Mountain region, George and I will be back, and we'll have some final thoughts for all of you. Mike Blowers, always great to see you. Safe travels. Have a great season, dude.
Drew, George, thanks
for
having
buddy.
me.
You bet. Have
Enjoyed
fun.
it.
Have fun.
Same to you.
All right, and we'll be back here with the Rockies wrap up for, again, Rocky Mountain folks in the Pacific Northwest. Preview the soccer matchup. Stick around.